Well, welcome to the Triple Crown Wargaming Studio, where you join us today for one of our deep dive videos. Now, the deep dives are a series of videos that we produce where we go through and analyse every single army book and supplement in Warhammer, and we do that from a competitive standpoint, basically.
Yes.
Now, in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the Wood Elf army book. I know this is one that Scott, the Duke McHugh, has been particularly excited about doing.
He still wishes that his Wood Elves as well.
Yeah, I would have been more excited if I still had them.
He really does. But unfortunately, he'll be led today by me, James the Lordmaster Lamin, and my bookman, as I'm calling him, is going to be Max the Chieftain Hurley.
Just change the name on my back to Max the Bookman.
Max the Bookman Hurley.
The librarian, if you will.
Now, we're going to take a look at the Army Special Rules. We're going to go through their specific laws of magic. We'll be taking a look at all of their unique equipment and all of their magic items. And then we'll go through and analyse all of their units and all of their special characters with our dedicated competitive rating system. So, if you're looking for the ultimate guide to building a competitive Wood Elf army, well, you've come to the right place. So, we're going to break today's video down into some distinct sections. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to explain what you're going to find going through with us. So, we're going to start by outlining how the rating system works, so you've got a better picture of it. Then, we'll go through all of the army-wide special rules. Following on from there, we'll take a look at the unit ratings and special characters. After that, we'll go through the army-specific magic items, mundane items, and laws of magic. And then, finally, we'll discuss with you guys some sample competitive army lists. And we'll do those in a completely uncomped list. And then we'll bring you a couple from the Triple Crown Wargaming comp pack system itself. So you get a good mixture if you come in some of our events, what you might want to take, and if you're going to something that's completely uncomped, you get a good list there as well.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to hang around anymore. I think we're all chomping at the bit. Let's get cracking. So, it's time for us to go with a brief explanation or a recap if you're a long-time deep dive viewer. I know some of you are.
Deep diver.
Deep diver, if you will. To cover how our rating system actually works. So, firstly, we divide every unit in the army book into its battlefield roles. So this creates a system that accurately represents how competitive a unit is and its job. Just because something's not going to kill 50, 100, 120 figures because it's not a witch elf, doesn't mean it's not competitive. And so we'll cover with you guys now what the battlefield roles are. So the first one are battle line units. Now these are the regiments that form the kind of fighting line of your army, the blocks that are going to go toe to toe with the enemy. Then we'll look at flanking units. Now these are your shock units that you'll use to hit, unsurprisingly, your enemies in the flanks. Your ranged units come next. Now these are units that offer dedicated shooting threat. I've got a feeling we might have a few of these in the Wood Elf book.
Yeah.
Are you sure? I don't usually see shooting in the Wood Elf army.
Possibly. Now, then we'll move on to chaff units. So these are units you use for hitting lone targets like war machines, and they're the sort of units that sadly you also use to sacrifice to get better battlefield advantage.
For the greater good.
For the greater good.
The greater good.
Support units come next. Now these are those uniquely Warhammer units that sort of give buffs or damage that don't really act like anything else. And then finally we'll look at special characters, which unsurprisingly is what it says on the tin. Now there are 15 different criteria for scoring the battlefield roles, but each one is only scored using the 6 that sort of specifically relate to them. There's no point in talking about how good at shooting a battle line unit is. So we'll outline the criteria that are used for each battlefield role now. Now the full details and kind of the breakdowns further under those headings can be found at triplecrownwargaming.com on the ratings page,
yes.
Unsurprisingly. So let's just check my cheat sheet once again, ladies and gentlemen, make sure I get all of this right for you. So each of those criteria that we just discussed is worth 4 points. So 6 criteria, 4 points, you can get a maximum score of 24.
Yeah.
Not a lot does, but
No.
you can do it. So let's just tag back to what each of those battlefield roles are scored on. So battle line units are scored on the strength of attacks, the number of attacks, their special rules, their command options, their survivability, and their cost. Flanking units are scored on the strength of their attacks, the number of attacks they have, their special rules, their manoeuvrability, their survivability, and their cost. Range units are scored on the threat range, the strength of their shots, their accuracy, their versatility, their survivability, and their cost. Chaff units are scored on their manoeuvrability, their number of attacks, their special rules, the slot that they come from, their survivability, and you guessed it, ladies and gentlemen, their cost. Support units are scored on their manoeuvrability, their special rules, their synergy, their risk, their survivability, and of course their cost. And finally, those special characters are going to be scored on their output, their special rules, their synergy, their risk, their survivability, and their cost.
What a shocker. I really wasn't expecting that last one.
I know, that last one was right out there, wasn't it?
Had me on the edge of my seat the whole time.
Now, a handy tip for you guys at home, if you've, particularly if you've not seen these videos before, is that if a unit scores sort of 18 plus, it's really going to be pretty competitive. You're probably going to want to drop it into your army list.
Yeah.
So with all of that out of the way, I think it's time that we knuckled down and moved on to some Wood Elf special rules. Right, well, let's deep dive, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go with our Wood Elf special rules now. So there's 5 for the Wood Elves army, that are sort of the army-wide special rules. There are obviously more on individual units. I should probably make sure that I keep making that distinction. So these are the 5 army-wide special rules. Max has got the book open. He's ready to bounce in there. Now, the first one that we're going to take a look at is the classic Always Strikes First. So you're not going to find that one on the special army special rules page. Sorry, Max. Because that is one of the universal special rules, but it is on all of the elf units in this book.
Yes.
Now, I say that and you might think I'm crazy, but I'm sure you all know that there are non-elf units too, of the wooded variety. So,
and the eagle variety.
Indeed, caw. Now, I've got to be honest, you know, we've talked about it before on other deep dive videos. One of the best special rules in 8th edition, period.
Yeah.
But if you've seen the high elf video, everything we talk about Always Strikes First in that video, then applies now to the Wood Elves.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, allows you to go first when making attacks in close combat.
As the name would suggest.
If your initiative value is equal to or greater than your opponent's, you also reroll failed to hit rolls in that combat. So it's very consistent. And when we talk about sort of the quality of a special rule, consistent special rules are obviously better than situational special rules. It's almost always good. Always strikes first, really.
Yeah.
I suppose the only time it wouldn't be is if you had hatred and were much faster than your opponent, which for
it
doesn't.
No, I mean it doesn't do anything negative. It just means you don't get the benefit of the hatred.
No, I'm clutching this.
You are.
It's absolutely disgusting. Gold standard of competitive special rule. Let's be honest. Now look, there is probably a small caveat on this one compared to when we talk about, say, high elves or dark elves. Is that the Wood Elves aren't sort of as blessed, shall we say, in the combat unit department. You do see a little less sort of combat orientation in a Wood Elf army, I think is fair to say.
Fair to say. But equally, I think the addition of Always Strikes First to things like their Glade Guard, their archers, means that actually they can, if they do get charged by some chaff, by some, 5 direwolves, for instance, they'll probably just kill them.
Yeah, there's a chance they can just save themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, going first is massive when you're in your pyjamas, let's be honest.
Yeah.
So I suppose that is fair. I also think when you start looking at stacking up your magical buffs, even what are not necessarily sort of traditionally combat units can be made to do a job, shall we say.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
having ASF just means you're probably going to reroll fail to hits 2 and go first, and it's all just a bit good. So, gold standard special rule. And you'll see that reflected in the special rule rating of basically all of the units in this book that are
all
elvish.
the elf units. Yeah.
So next up we have Ambush from the World Roots. So Max has got his page open for good reason now. Now, this rule allows a Wood Elf army to place a forest on the table at the start of the game. Now, this is placed during deployment, it's placed before units are deployed, and only in the Wood Elf player's half of the table. Now, you then get to decide which type of forest it is. So on page 119 of the rulebook, this is why we have cheat sheets, ladies and gentlemen, there is a table for sort of the effects of forests.
Yeah.
Now, I've got to be honest, it isn't used that readily in competitive play, but for Wood Elf players, they always do this part at least.
Yeah.
So they're sort of the forest they deploy by ambush from the world routes. They choose which one of the 6 flavours of forest they want it to be.
I'll be honest. I think I know the name of 2 of the forests. One is because it attacked me a long time ago. It was like a blood forest.
Yeah,
or
that's
something.
one.
Yeah.
And the other one is because when I used my wood elves, this was the only forest I ever used it as, which is the venom thicket.
You didn't want to go for the fungus forest
No,
and have stupidity.
not
Yeah.
really.
I think that's-
maybe.
I think that one like, but if goblins go in it, they become like stubborn.
Yeah.
Or something. Yeah, which is amazing. But, yeah, so the venom thicket is what you'll see here.
Yeah.
Now this one gives poison attacks to anyone in the wood, friend or
For
foe.
their close combat attacks.
Yep. Not for shooting, and
Because that would be
that
incredible.
would be amazing, wouldn't it? What else with poison shooting? That'd be really good.
I wonder if we'll see that later on.
I wonder if we will. But it also counts as dangerous terrain for everyone that moves through it. So that's a bit of a risky biscuit, but we're going to see on the next special rule why Wood Elves still pick the Venom Thicket. And that next special rule is Forest Stalker. Now, I keep trying to breathe. Sorry about that. It's the hay fever today is wonderful. So now Forest Stalker applies to the elf models in the book only again. So it's a second of our elf only special rules. So this one gives you Forest Strider, which means you never take dangerous terrain from woods and you're not slowed by woods, which is why the Venom Thicket is so popular, obviously unsurprisingly. Now, furthermore, if at least half of the Wood Elf unit is in the forest, they may offer supporting attacks in an additional rank to usual in close combat, and they may offer extra shots as well. So they shoot in an additional rank to usual as well, is the words I'm looking for. Thanks for helping me out.
Does it
there,
not
boys.
just say they gain the fight and extra rank rule?
No, so
Oh, really?
There are 3 rules they gain.
There you go. Let's let.
I'll read the
Matt's
rules everyone
reading.
but James tries to ad lib off the top of his head here. So the first one is so if you got half the models in the forest, all models in the unit have the Forest Stalker special rule, fire in 1 or more rank than normal. So when you're shooting, you fire in 1 rank more than normal.
Yep.
If you choose a volley fire, this will normally mean that all the models in the front 3 ranks and half the model in the 4th and any subsequent ranks are allowed to shoot.
Yep.
So more shots for your buck.
Yeah,
Yep.
really
Lovely.
good.
The second one is all models in the unit that have the Forest Stalker special rule can make supporting attacks with 1 extra rank than normal. This is cumulative with other special rules that would allow models to fight in extra ranks. So if you have,
Okay,
Spears.
so if you had fight an extra rank somehow,
yeah,
you could
That's
fight
what,
in
that's what spears
4.
give you.
does Spears give you a fight?
They
extra
give you
rank?
fight an extra rank.
Oh, okay.
Fight an
Okay.
extra rank is the only special rule that stacks. You heard it here first.
Oh, that,
says it
that's
specifically
why.
in the
That's
rulebook.
why high elf spearmen can fight in
Fight
4
in
ranks
4
with spears. Yeah, okay.
And the final benefit they gain is all models in the unit that have Forest Stalker special rule, but not their mounts. They specify this one a lot. Reroll all to wound rolls of 1 when making close combat attacks. So they gain murderous prowess from the Dark
That's
Elves.
essentially what it is. They gain martial prowess from the high elves and murderous prowess from the dark elves
Yes.
when they're in a wood.
They just get the best of both worlds, which is what I've got on my
They do.
cheat sheet. Now, so I've got a few things here that are probably worth
going through.
touching on, if you like, but I'm trying to sort of skim through them to make sure I don't repeat ones that we've got. So there are a couple of drawbacks with this special rule. The most obvious one being you have to be in a forest, and that's not always. No, that helps because you've got the ambush from the world route, so you're dropping
so
a
you
forest.
know you've got one.
But ultimately, it's probably not always super helpful for an army that likes to move around a lot.
I see
No.
it more as a defensive bunker at the back of your board for your Glade Guard units or your Eternal Guard if you're crazy enough to take some of them.
I think they're all right. It's getting the fight to happen in the wood.
Yes.
That's the crucial thing. It's easier to get the shooting to happen in the wood, which is why I think that it's so obviously good with Glade Guard.
Yeah.
But getting the fight to happen in the wood is the big drawback. And a bit like when we talk about sort of high elves as well, can feel a little prescriptive because you're thinking, well, I've got this rule, I've paid points for this rule, so should I be taking that bigger unit?
Yeah,
Should I be going a little bigger, so that I
that's
can sort of
fair.
get my benefit?
But in the same vein, I don't think I've ever seen, or the vast majority of the Wood Elf armies I've seen, use units of 10 Glade Guard.
We saw
so
one.
We saw one
Triple Crown.
Triple Crown
that's,
GT.
That's why I changed my mind.
That's why you
and said the
changed your
vast
mind
majority.
quickly.
But
Yeah.
generally, you see minimum units of 10, which don't get any benefit from this. Now, yes,
Yeah.
Eternal Guard do, because generally you'll see them in sort of 4, maybe 5 deep, depending on how wide they are. But I don't really see anyone making use of that rule for their Glade Guard.
Well, I suppose they get the reroll ones.
Yeah,
They get that part. They just don't get the extra ranks part.
No.
I mean,
I always see the Glade Guard and the Forest in a benefit purely because if they want to charge the Glade Guard, they're going to have to learn themselves to do it.
Yeah,
100%.
So you maintain this one for the Forest Strider special rule. I
Yes,
feel.
yeah,
It's
that's
just other
definitely
little
better of the
benefits
two.
you're going to get from it.
Yeah.
I mean, look, overall, I don't think it's going to come into play as often as you'd like it to. Is what I've got on there.
not for. But to be honest, it'll probably only really consistently come into effect for your core.
Yeah, and again, I've got here, due to the use of smaller units in competitive play, they like to move around the table quite a lot. Not just because you're not, you're not necessarily able to be in the wood. It can be the unit size too. So, I think we're going to move on.
Mhm.
I'm happy to move on. So, next up is Forest Spirit. So I've got models with this special rule have magical attacks for both shooting and close combat attacks. They also have a 6+ ward save and are immune to psychology unless they are a mount. So that second part.
Unicorns are forest spirits, maybe.
Well, it
Grey
says,
Stags are Forest.
it says specifically unless they are a mount, they don't get the 6+ ward save.
Yeah, that's what. Otherwise, I can't think
The
of
dragon
what mounts.
is a forest spirit.
Oh,
The forest dragon is. So it's a real shame that he doesn't get the 6+ ward because I almost think that's like a nice cheeky bonus that might tempt me to dragon just for the bants. But
You have to spend 5 points on the Iron Curse icon instead.
it's the slot thing, isn't it though? Because the other trickster shard is good with the dragon.
Yeah.
Now this one basically applies to your tree units. So think your dryads, think your treekin, think your tree men, and your tree men ancients. So look, it's okay. It's all right.
Yeah.
It's good against undead, I suppose. It's good against ethereal stuff.
It's not detrimental, bro. It can be with magical attacks against a certain army, but
Yeah, but I mean, like, to be honest, it's just not particularly helpful against a great deal of stuff either.
Did you give them Forest Strider?
No.
it does, yes.
Oh, it does.
It does.
Okay.
For a model with this special has the Forest Strider.
Sorry, I
special
missed
rule.
that.
I was going to say because it seems odd. The elves get Forest Strider,
But the
but the actual trees can trip over a branch and hurt themselves.
Yeah, they
that
also
makes
get
sense.
Forest Strider.
Fair enough.
That does make sense. The immune psychology is alright, but it stops you fleeing. So I feel like all of them, bar maybe the 6+ ward, are good, but have like a little bit of a drawback or sort of nothing particularly amazing. So I think it's a bit disappointing.
Yeah, and I think that sort of bears itself out in the fact that you don't really see any forest spirit units in competitive armies. You might see a tree man, or you might see a unit of treekin.
I think treekin are alright.
You probably never see dryads, but
not often. They're a plus if you take Triple Crown Cog.
Yeah. You still don't see them though.
No, I think overall that it probably bears out, like you say, in that I think it probably filters down as we talk about those units later in the review.
Yeah.
So final special rule we're going to look at in this section is the Blessing of the Ancients. Now this one is a rule for wizards only, and that allows them to add an additional 1 to the totals for their casting values when casting spells, as long as they are within a forest. This is a good rule.
Yeah.
It's a layer of blessing in a wood.
Yeah, or Hecatare's Blessing, is it? Hecatare's Blessing is the Dark Elf one.
Except I think isn't the Dark Elf one only on Law of Dark Magic?
I think it is.
Yeah, and the High Elf
And High
one's
one's
only
only
on
high.
Okay.
This is not.
No, it's not, which is cool, but
You're limited to the forest.
it is
You are
limited to
limited
being
to
in
the
the
forest.
woods.
Yeah.
So again, we're back to like sort of static. So I've got a few things here. It's a good rule. Wood Elf wizards have access to 10 laws of magic, and any additions to casting attempts is always going to improve the consistency of your army. Furthermore, the rule synergises very strongly with the ambush and the world routes that we discussed earlier.
Because you know you're going to have a wood.
You know you're going to have a wood.
Again, we're going back to the army, the Wood Elf army at Triple Crown GT. Someone had a +6 casting Spellweaver.
Yeah, because they took Book of Asher,
They
which
took the
is
Book of
an
Asher,
obviously good choice on
Yeah,
that.
makes sense.
So I've got here, so why is it not a great rule? Well, the answer is, in general, Wood Elves like to manoeuvre, they like to get around the table, and it's not always possible to get your wizards into the woods, for the exact moment they're casting, particularly when you're looking at factors like line of sight and range.
Yeah, I think it's a Brucey bonus that you're always sort of considering. It's like if you've got 2 options, you can go either, you're here and you can either go here, or you can go here, but here's in a wood, or you go there because you get an extra on the cast.
Yeah.
It's not something you sort of, well, I was going to say it's not something you build a battle plan around, but I think you definitely can. If you take a bit of a different
When we talk about items as well, I think we're going to touch back on some of this stuff again.
Most of the time, it will just be I happen to be in a wood, so I get a +1 to cast.
Yeah, I mean, I've got solid That's my last last point on my cheat
pretty
sheet.
solid.
Solid.
Yeah.
So like wood.
Yeah.
Oh come
Moving on then.
This is my best material. So on that.
Oh dear lord.
That's the best. God, what else to look forward to?
Well, on that bombshell, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to leave special rules behind, and I think we're going to branch out into the unit ratings and special character ratings. Right, so let's start looking at those unit ratings and those special character ratings. But before we do, I'm going to address the elephant in the room, and that is generic character profiles. So, when putting together the rating system that we've got for Triple Crown Wargaming, it's really difficult to write one that's going to cover all generic characters. And the reason for that is if we take something like a Spellweaver, for example, we've just got so many options and choices. We've got mounts, we've got laws of magic, we've got magic item combinations that we can put together. And the choices you make at those stages, they will define the value that the character has and the things that they can do. So during the deep dive, we won't be covering those generic character choices. Now there are a few ways that we've devised for you to find out how good your special character is, I suppose you could say. And the first and easiest one of those is to head over to the website, triplecrownwargaming.com, head to the ratings page, and when you've built your generic character profile, well, pop it through the rating system for yourself and see what it comes out like. That's what the rating system's put on there for. Now, the other sort of two options, one of those is to check out the competitive character series snippet. We've done a Glade Lord one at this point when we produce this video, and going forward you'll see others. And that's sort of a best build or builds that we like for those characters is probably the way I would put that. And then the final one is that you could just simply drop us a message with your army list on it. And we always do our best to get back to people and to feature those in videos if we can. So we're always happy, and to get this bit of moustache that's tickling my face out of the way, to do that too. So with that kind of established and set up and ready to roll, I think we're going to start dividing this army book up into its respective battlefield roles. So, sometimes you'll find that your units will appear in multiple categories, and that's because we believe you can use them in multiple roles. Yeah. Doesn't happen super often, but it does happen maybe a little more often than I think it's going to when I start writing the next script. So we're going to start with battle line units for Wood Elves, and it's not a huge pool, I must say, but we've got Dryads, Treekin, Eternal Guard, and Wildwood Rangers. So we're starting with some foresty stuff.
Yeah.
And that's beginning with Dryads. So Max is on the Dryad page, he's ready to roll. And these guys come in with a competitive rating of 10 out of 24. Now, we get there with 1 for the strength of their attacks, 2 for the number of attacks, 3 for their special rules, 1 for their command options, 2 for their survivability, and 1 for their cost. Now, look, these guys are really helped out by their special rules, it's worth saying. They cause fear, I think.
Fear, fire spirit, and hatred.
And they have hatred. Hatred is such a good, consistent special rule. A bit like the ASF, lets you reroll only for the first round, but it does let you reroll your hit rolls. And certainly for a battle line unit, that's always a strong draw for them.
Yeah, I don't think it matters that hatred's only for the first round, because all the Dryads will be dead after that. So.
Scott does not like Dryads, apparently.
Yeah,
I like the idea of them.
Yeah.
I just don't think they're very good.
It's that they're toughness 4 basically, which is, and they've got that 6 up ward, so they sort of sneak a little bit on survivability, but
strength 3 does not help at all.
No, their cost as well. They're just not their points. They're just at least 1, maybe 2 points over the top.
They're what, 12?
I shall tell you in a second.
Yeah, I think
11 or 12.
I think they're 12.
11 points a model.
11. Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah, they're probably.
I might take them if they were 10.
Yeah.
I'd probably take them if they were 9, if I'm honest with you, because I think they'd be cheap enough to just chuck them in the wire stuff. But
oh dear.
I think the other thing for them as well is they really lack command options.
Yeah.
No access to standards, no access to musicians.
Just the champion.
And they're not sort of skirmish. They were back in previous editions, so
they used to be skirmish. They used to be strength 4 as well.
Oh yeah, they were so good.
They were well good.
So good then. Probably too good.
Yeah.
If I'm honest. So, but yeah, it's just a shame because they kind of you want your battle line units to have those standards and those musicians just for the sort of combat resolution and the things they do for you. So if they're not got that, you'd like them to be skirmish because then they can manoeuvre around that way. They can't do either. Bit disappointing. Sorry guys. Starting with a boo. But we'll move on to treekin next. Slightly bigger, uglier pieces of wood. And these ones come with a competitive rating of 13 out of 24. It's a bit of an improvement. Unfortunately for them, they're not Skaven. No. So this one, they get there with a 2 for the strength of their attacks, so the strength 4. 4 for the number of attacks, because these guys do kick a bit out.
They do.
They unfortunately get nothing for their special rules, and they get 1 for their command options, 4 for their survivability, and 2 for their cost. So they get... Their special rules aren't great. That's probably their biggest letdown.
Do they have any other than Forest Spirit?
Yes, they do.
Yeah, they're flammable. Which is really rubbish. Which is why they would have got 1 for having sort of situational special rule. But we obviously knock a point off if they've got a particularly harmful or negative special rule. And unfortunately, flammable on a unit that doesn't have access to Dragon Bane is really rubbish, particularly when they're multiple wound and they're tough. So you want that toughness to get you through, and your opponent's got to earn every wound. And so the last thing you need is for everyone to become 2.
Yeah, I do think the Dryads skip the penalty in the rating system for flammable because they don't have 2 wounds. So I feel like they were only not given flammable because they don't have 2 wounds.
Yeah, it wouldn't make a difference.
Yeah. So I feel like they sort of dodged that bullet in the rating system.
So there are some good points about them, and I actually think they're quite solid. And I did say a few minutes ago,
solid as a tree.
Hard wood, baby. But the thing is with them is they are tough. As long as they do avoid that flaming, they are.
They're a minute to get through.
They've got lots of attacks. They've got a stomp and like 3 attacks each. That's really good.
The strength 4 lets them down a little bit.
Yeah, but they can't be stomped on.
No.
And they give you a unit that's excellent at tying stuff up in an army that doesn't have units that are excellent at tying stuff up.
Yeah,
they're actually alright for their points. They're not.
They've got 4+ scaly skin as well at toughness 5.
Yeah. They're not. It's a shame it's scaly because you could lore metal them, but I'll leave that there.
Oh well.
But they are a really good anvil unit in an army that lacks anvil
really
units.
have one,
I think they're probably the one.
Yeah.
So if you like the idea of sort of trying to play hammer and anvil, I'm not sure it's the best style for Wood Elves, but I would consider treeking if that is a style you want to.
Yeah, probably the way we do
at.
it with Wood Elves.
They would be, and it would probably be 2 units of 6 or 8. I'd have thought.
Yeah, I'd probably go 8, but yes.
Yes. So we're going to move back now to Elvish territory, and the first of our elf units to feature, and this one is Eternal Guard. These guys come in at 12 out of 24, so 50%.
Not bad.
So they get 1 for strength of attacks, 1 for number of attacks, 4 for special rules, 4 for command options. They get a 0 for survivability and a 2 for their cost. Now, if you've not seen a deep dive before, you won't have heard me say this. If you have, then you'll have to bear with me. But 0 for survivability is actually relatively common. So if you're sort of toughness 3 and you've got a 5+ save or worse, that's the baseline for Warhammer. So we just give you a 0, and then the system is based on how much better than the baseline you are, if you like. So what we're saying when we give something a 0 is that not that it falls over, it just means that it's
average.
It's just very average. It's just toughness 3 with a 5 up or worse. And for these guys, they've got a shield, I think.
You can buy them a shield.
You can buy them a shield for a point. I'm assuming you would.
I don't think they have light armour, do they?
No, they are in their pyjamas.
They do have light armour.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. So they're a 5 if you give them a shield, and be toughness 3, which makes them the perfect 0 points. That
marginally better than I thought.
They still fall over to anything that's
do.
a decent strength.
They do, and I think so. I've got some points here that I'll cover, and then we can keep eating them, I suppose, if you like. But these guys get saved by their special rules. So they're stubborn.
Yeah, massively so.
They fight in lots of ranks because they have spears, and if you get them in a forest, they have forest stalk as well. Really cool. Which is really solid. That actually helps them a lot because it helps to offset the fact they've only got 1 attack each. And they're weapon skill 5. That's quite good.
Really.
Yeah.
They're a core unit. Okay, so there are reasons to consider these guys.
Yeah, and they're ASF as well because they're an alpha unit.
They do, yeah. But unfortunately, like many of the Wood Elf units, they just lack survivability, and they're punished by their absolutely rotten strength value.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, again, if you take in Law of Life or Law of Shadow, these guys are worth thinking about. Because they're good with Law of Life, because they're tough to kill, and they'll sit there forever because they're stubborn. At least ship 9 base, which is really good.
Yeah.
I do like the idea of having the unit as you ramble in the forest, just to hold down near the centre of your board a little bit.
Again, that's really good as well, because obviously ranked up units lose steadfast in woods. The fact these guys are stubborn,
they don't care.
They don't care.
Yeah.
That is an actual problem that we should have touched on with Forest Stalker as well.
Yeah.
That they still lose their steadfast in the wood, and they really shouldn't. But that's life. But
Yeah.
But yeah, certainly that helps the Eternal Guard. The fact they're stubborn,
Yes.
you can drop them in the wood, and then maybe you can put choppy character in there.
Stubborn leadership 9 as well. No one to be sniffed at.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's their own leadership as well. So
Yeah. Good with, as you were saying, you've sort of touched on life, but you said Shadow as well.
Shadow as well, yeah.
Occam's Mind Razor is absolutely fantastic on these guys.
Yep.
Always strikes first, weapon skill 5, initiative 5,
Fine in like
and
4
suddenly
ranks.
strength 9. Oh.
Yeah.
Even if you don't get Occam's, I think it's the Withering, drop your opponent's toughness, then it doesn't matter so much that you're only strength 3.
And enfeebling foe drop their strength.
Yeah, so they hit you back.
You're poorer.
Yeah, really good.
I think this is a common thing for Wood Elves.
Yeah.
As we go through, we'll start talking a lot more about the magic spells and how they affect the army.
And Law of Shadow will continue to pop up.
It will.
Yeah,
It's
it's a great choice. So, moving from a great choice to a choice that surprised me with its score is Wildwood Rangers, and that's our final battle line unit. And these guys come in actually with 13 out of 24, which I should say is better than I thought it was going to be, but still isn't as good as most other armies that have got elite elves.
Yeah.
So, you know, elite high elves or elite dark elves. But we get there with strength of attacks for a big 3, 1 for the number of attacks, 4 for their special rules, 3 for their command options, 0 for their survivability again, and 2 for their cost. They are about the right points. I think these guys rocking at 11 or 12. They're alright, but
They got 11 points a model. Same points as a great sword.
yeah, I mean they're not stubborn, which is a shame.
They're not. They seem to be. They try. I gather from when they made these guys, they wanted to make them different from executioners and white lions.
And they did that by making them obviously worse.
Yeah, I think that those were like much more established tropes, weren't they? And I think that was an issue for them because they've got sort of 1 attack. They can get 2 attacks if they fight vehicles.
Yeah, I don't mind that rule.
Which is why the sort of 3 for their special rules is quite good.
Or ASF they have great weapons, so ASF ignores the Aura Strikes Last. They're striking initiative 5.
Yeah, I think you would think that that's a particularly unpleasant combination. And they get 4 for their special rules. I was reading the wrong zip. Sorry. I did say that originally. I just said 3 then out of the blue because I looked at the section below. 4 for their special rules because they've got ASF and a great weapon.
Lovely.
They are only strength 3 basic though, which is just a
Massively
little bit disappointing. But again, these guys with Laura Beasts, really good choice.
Yeah, probably the best choice for them.
Yeah, 100%. Beasts is the way to go if you're going to take these guys. But I don't think I would take them. No,
never. They've got these are the guys that don't have light armor. I'm sure these just don't have armor.
They have a light armor.
Where am I? Look, my Wood Elf book was wrong. They definitely didn't have armor.
Are you sure you played?
I think it's probably for the best that you just gave them to me.
Yeah,
probably for the best, mate.
Yeah.
They still fall over. It's just a 6+, so that's probably why they fall over.
To be fair, I never used them. I had 30.
I remember using them once against maybe like a gunline army, and that's why they just fell over.
So I've got here, just to briefly recap really, having ASF and a great weapon is very good. In fact, it really saves their rating. Having terrible survivability and a very strange magic banner allowance. I think they get 25 points.
25 points.
Which is really odd for an elite elf unit.
Yeah, Eternal Guard get 50, don't they?
No, they got 25.
Oh, really?
Eternal Guard's 25.
Yeah, everything's sort of 25.
None have big magic allowance for their banners.
I think Wild Riders
special, Wild Riders
might,
sisters do it.
But yeah, so bit weird that balance means there's probably only 2 or 3 banners worth considering. Banner of Flaming probably being the most obvious one.
Yeah.
But you know, probably not a good choice if I'm honest. I think the other problem with these guys is that I don't really see where they fit in a Wood Elf army.
No.
They're not particularly manoeuvrable. They're not very good at anvil because they'll run away because they're not stubborn. They're not tough.
And they've got basically no save.
Yeah, so...
They just don't know where they want to be.
So they look really good in a cabinet like that one, though.
Unfortunately, it is true.
Yeah, and unlike the Eternal Guard, which are similar, except although they do have the stubbornness, which makes them a better anvil, Eternal Guard core. These guys are special.
Huge.
These are a special.
You've got to
yeah.
spend 25% of your army on the slot that Eternal Guard come out of. You can spend nothing on Wild Rangers. So don't.
And yeah,
Essentially.
He's got his adamant in his hate.
They are
for the,
awful. They're
Wild
really
Rangers.
not good. I don't like them.
well, 13 is pretty average. Yeah,
It's
to
not
be fair,
great,
and they're
yeah.
supposed to be an elite unit, so that's
Yeah.
pretty poor. So we're gonna swoop through the foliage now, ladies and gentlemen, as we look at the flanking units for the Wood Elf Army book, and we're going back to Dryads again. Because I've seen them used like that a few times. War Dancers now, Wild Riders, Warhawk Riders, and the Tree Man. So, nice mixture in this section.
Yeah.
So, Dryads are going to come in with a hot competitive rating of 10 out of 24.
So the exact same.
Which
Yeah, I
this
think
does happen often.
Yeah.
More
It
often
is.
than I think it's going to. But again, it's 1 for strength attacks, 2 for number of attacks, 3 for special rules, 1 for manoeuvrability, 2 for survivability, and 1 for cost. And I think because they're a bit slow.
Yeah, so the different sort of section, the different category, that's what I'm looking for, between battle line and flanking is we swap command options for manoeuvrability.
Yes.
And because they don't have
Haven't got
Well,
any
they have-
movement rules, have they? They're
yeah,
not
they don't have any
skirmish.
movement rules, no, not anymore. And because they have very limited command, they have 1 bit of command.
It's the same.
They score the same, hence the same rating. But
Yeah.
I think they're probably better in a flanking role than they are a battle line role, because in that flanking role you're probably going to have a battle line unit in the front,
Yes.
which means you've got the static res from them, you've got the banner, you've probably got ranks and things like that, and the Dryads are just there to like break steadfast, to do some more attacks.
And they're probably going to die if their attack's a bit hard, so
Yeah.
getting them in the side's
Less
nice.
attacks back is always good.
Yeah, but, well, yeah. Still not stellar for them. We've really
No,
tried
not
with
really.
these. So we're going to move on to War Dancers. One of those iconic Wood Elf units, actually, right back from yesteryear when they sort of first put the book out. Now these get a 12 out of 24 as well in the flanking role. So we're not really hit any stellar ratings
Not
yet, chaps,
really.
I've got to be honest.
No.
Nothing like dreadful, but nothing stellar.
It's coming soon. It's coming soon.
1 with strength attacks, 2 for number of attacks, 4 for their special rules, 2 for their manoeuvrability, 2 for their survivability, and 1 for their cost. And that second point of manoeuvrability is just because they skirmish and so they can reform and march a lot, which is super handy for them. So I've got here, I like these guys in the chaff roll a lot, and I'm going to discuss them in chaff again. In fact, you'll probably have seen me use them in games on the channel like that. I know people do like them as flankers. Chris Howe, if you're watching, I know you like them as a flanking unit.
Always remember, Chris, to weave those mists for me.
The rating is pretty poor there.
Yeah.
They do have incredible special rules,
Yeah.
and their Shadow Dancers of Loek is the one that
It's the big one, yeah.
lifts them up. So this really saves their rating, and I think it's worth us just touching on what the Shadow Dancers of Loek rule does, because it is so good. So I'm going to readjust my position to listen to the chieftain.
So Shadow's answer Loek at the start of each round of close combat in which they are fighting models with this special rule, the Dancers, choose one from the. It says the Dancers.
It's fine.
Don't look at me like that. Choose one of the following dances, the effect of which lasts until the end of the turn or until a new dance is chosen. This is done before impact hits are resolved. All dancers in the same unit must choose the same dance. Dancers cannot choose the same dance in 2 consecutive rounds of combat. And there are 4 to choose from. Whirling Death, which gives the dancers armor piercing and killing blow. Storm of Blades, which gives the dancers +1 attack. The Shadow's Coil, which gives the dancers a 3+ ward save. And the Woven Mist, which means enemy units in base contact with the unit receive no combat result bonus for extra ranks. There's a lot of dancers in that, my words there.
Well, I think though that you can see why people like them flanking. So the last one, the Woven Mists,
Woven Mists.
removing rank bonus for your opponent.
Yeah.
That's nice when you get it in the side with the battle line in the front.
Mm-hmm.
And I think certainly the armor piercing killing blow is very good like that as well, because you can get
Yeah.
them on the side and just
Character maybe.
hit the character on the end. Very good again.
3+ ward save just to tie up something for a turn or so.
Yeah.
As well.
And this is why I think when we look at them in chaff, we'll touch back on these, because I think that's also the things that made them so good in that role too. So I think that's it. I think that's it for War Dancers. We'll
I mean, I don't think they're that expensive. That sort of overcosted.
I think they are in a flanking role.
Okay.
But I mean, you could say they're average and then give them a 13 out of 24,
Yeah.
which buff them by 1. I can understand why why you.
'Cause they are good. They do definitely have their sort of uses in that role.
So I think we're going to fleet away from them, and we'll go to one of the big boys now, and that's Wild Riders. And these guys come in with a whopping 19 out of 24.
There's those big numbers.
You've all waited for it. Well, let's see why they get there. So they get 3 for their strength of attacks, 4 for their number of attacks, 3 for their special rules, 4 for their maneuverability, 2 for their survivability, which is very good for a wood elf, and 3 for their cost, because you really can do some serious shift with these guys. So they are, in my opinion, if they are one of the best, if they are not the best cavalry unit in the game. That's just my feeling on them. They're fast, they have fantastic armour penetration because they carry Azari spears, which are the same as the Eternal Guard actually, which we'll cover later in the video, but they're essentially a +1 strength and armour piercing when they charge with them.
Yeah, Azari spears are just a normal spear with armour piercing. So when you're mounted with a spear, you get +1 on the turn you charge.
Very good. And then you've got 1 attack, then devastating charge, then frenzy, then the mount, and then the mount gets a 2nd attack as well. So
the mount,
and the mount's strength 4 by the way.
Strength 4. The rider itself is strength 4 as well, so they're strength 5 on the chart.
Yeah.
Yeah, as James said, the mount will get the +1 attack from frenzy because it doesn't specify. It's just the rider that has frenzy.
Yep.
Which is a unique case in Warhammer, I think.
Yeah, there's not many of those.
No.
I think. Now I've got the frenzy is probably the only worrying thing about them.
Yeah.
He's getting them caught out of position.
Yeah.
And one of the ways you can get around that is even if you don't really want to vanguard them, say you're going to vanguard them.
Vanguard them ½ an inch.
Yeah, and then that stops them having to charge on, having to take the frenzy check because they can't charge on turn 1.
Even if they do though, they're leadership 9.
Yeah,
so it's
they are.
unlikely they'll fail it.
Now they're not quite undercosted in my opinion. They're just on that cost. They're the right cost, but they're the right cost with enough in the bracket to really maximise them in game with some spells.
You do get a lot out of them.
Yeah, that's it. If you can manoeuvre them well, if you cast the right spells with them in the right orders, these guys are just outrageous.
Yes.
If only they had like 1 more point of armour save.
I mean, they got a 4+ arm save
Oh,
instead.
but could you imagine if they had a 3+ or a 2+?
That'd just be too much. 2+.
2+. They're fast cavalry.
You're crazy, man.
That's it. Imagine.
And they're fast, heavy cavalry.
Well, look at Dark Elves.
Yeah.
They put a fancy cape on. They got 1 up armour saves everywhere.
Fair enough.
I
just want some big leaves.
I also want my Chaos Knights to be fast cav as well. I don't get that, do I?
So
they'd still be overcosted.
Look, Wild Riders, if you are building a competitive Wood Elf army, I'm going to make the strong assertion that it doesn't really matter what type of build you're going for, Wild Riders should be in your list. They're excellent.
Or use a couple of units.
They are the best unit in the book.
Yeah.
There are other units that score the same rating as them. They are the best unit in the book, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So we're moving on from the best unit in the book to not the best unit in the book, which is Warhawk Riders, and these guys are coming in with a 15 out of 24.
Surprisingly high.
Which was the first point I made. Now we get 2 for the strength of their attacks, 4 for the number of attacks, 3 for their special rules, 4 for their manoeuvrability, 1 for their survivability, and 1 for their cost. So these are really a tale of 2 halves.
Yeah.
Because they dish out loads of attacks. And they're really manoeuvrable, which is just what we said made Wild Riders good.
Yeah.
But they cost a fortune.
Yeah.
They've got weird problems with their special rules.
Yeah.
Which we're going to touch on in a minute.
Their attacks are rubbish strength, most of them.
Yes, and they are just the worst survivability in the book. They're absolutely terrible. They have a 6-up save. It's just
tied worse survivability with their Wildwood Rangers.
No, because these guys don't even have light armour.
No, they're mounted.
They
are mounted, but these are the ones you're on about, Scott. They don't have light armour.
Maybe it's these guys.
Now, so why have I said they've got weird special rules? So the riders get always strikes first, and they've got Azari spears, so they get armour piercing, which is really lovely.
And +1 strength.
And yeah, so all of that seems good. Then they have a rule called Predator's Descent, which gives the Warhawk killing blow, but not the rider. The Warhawk that doesn't reroll the hits.
It probably doesn't get to attack because
everything's dead.
Yeah,
no, it's this shit 5.
Oh, okay, he's quite quick.
The Hawk is very quick.
Yeah, and again, I'm just going to double check myself because I didn't write on the cheat sheet. They've got 2 attacks, so they're probably going to be lucky to hit once.
Yeah. What's their
So-
weapon skill?
4.
Yeah, they'll probably hit one.
So you've only got to pack like 6 into a unit to get a killing blow on average.
They don't even cause fear.
No,
The big scary bird doesn't cause fear.
No, because the rules make them a joke.
But
Everyone's too busy laughing at them.
And they've got bows as well, haven't
The guy
they?
on top wants
guy
to be
on top's got a
shooting.
bow.
Yeah. And we're back to that comedy of errors thing that
But-
we see with other units.
The guy on top with a bow is the only unit in the book, I think, bar the wizards, who has a bow
And
that
can't take magical arrows. And if
No.
he could, you might think
You
about
might,
them.
yeah.
Because you might think, I'll harry a bit,
Yeah.
and then I'll charge.
Yeah, but he can't.
But
So
he
he never
can't.
hits with his bow, because you're always going to move, because otherwise you're going to get charged and they'll die.
Yeah. And again, another thing, you've got all that great manoeuvrability with fly,
Yeah, which massively helps their rating.
but you can't
You
do
don't get
anything with
anything
it.
out of it,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's so disappointing. And they're really cool. They're great models too. I know they're not available anymore, but they're,
Yeah,
really,
they're okay.
they were nice models.
Such strong feelings from James and Scott about Warhammer.
Yeah, because I really want them to
yeah,
be good.
I wanted them to be good,
Yeah,
but they're just not.
and then we talk about 45 points.
They are 45
So if I want to
points.
averagely get 1 killing blow, and assume that no one does anything to them because they appreciate the sacrifices I've made to put them in my list, right? I've only got to spend like
270 points.
Yeah,
Are you
I
talking
might as well have the leader at that point, a Wind Rider.
You talking about my Chaos Knights being overpriced.
Yeah.
Look at this.
I mean, they're what? They're 5-6 points more than a Treekin.
They're the same
Mate,
points
they're
as
more
Treekin.
points than a troll.
Yeah.
They're the same points as a Treekin.
Oh, a Treekin are 45?
They are
Okay.
45.
So that's why Treekin are a good cost.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just going to check my cheat sheet, make sure I haven't missed anything in this impassioned outburst.
Missed any of their
Um,
appalling.
So I have, and I really think this is important that I say it because it's excellently worded and a little bit humorous. Very expensive with shocking survivability. These guys' volume of attacks and flies there, 1 saving grace. However, you should be saving space in your army list by not taking them in competitive play.
Absolutely savage.
Terrible, not worth it.
It was totally worth the payoff. Please put in the comments that you enjoyed the joke.
Don't embrace this ego.
So we're going to move on to the Tree Man, and he is the last of our flanking units. And he comes in with a 16 out of 24. Now, in general, monsters do
Okay.
quite well
Yeah.
in the flanking role because
Yeah.
they've got lots of dice and lots of strength.
Lots of, yeah. they do lots of
So
attacks.
he gets 3 for the strength of his attacks, 4 for the number of attacks, 2 for his special rules, 1 for his manoeuvrability, 4 for his survivability, and 2 for his cost.
Yeah.
So I've got Stubborn is a fantastic role on a model that is tough.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
And he's toughness 6, which
Toughness
is
6 with
really
3 up armor
good.
or
3 up,
scaly skin?
3 up scaly skin.
Yeah.
6 up walled.
6 up
and
wall as well,
then
yeah.
he has Flammable, which is really
Yeah.
upsetting because
Same as the Treekin, really, isn't it?
One flaming cannonball or on a 3+, and
Yeah.
your Kindle would.
the problem is that with the 3 up armor save as well, like strength 4 with flaming.
Strength floor.
Strength 4 with flaming. Or it's only 6s to wound him, but you
You
know,
only get 3
Only gotta
wounds.
get a few.
he's only got to get a few. And if you get strength 5, it's just all tears for
Yeah.
bedtime. I tell you what, Wild Rangers with a flaming banner, they'd give him the business, wouldn't they?
They chop him down.
They'd get an extra attack. He causes fear.
Yeah, I still don't think that.
He does have tree whack as well, which yes,
He does, yeah.
I feel more comical than competitive.
It is more common. I mean, he could do something, I suppose.
What is it? He swaps his attacks for 1, you take an initiative check, and if you foul,
Yeah,
he
so
hits
you-
you at strength.
7, I think it is, isn't it?
No, the model of special rule can choose to make a single tree whack in place of making his normal close combat attacks.
I immediately don't like it.
If the model is making a tree whack, it must be declared before rolling to hit. To resolve a tree whack, nominate an enemy model in base contact. That model must pass an initiative test or suffer D6 wounds with no arm saves allowed.
Yeah, it's alright. Again, I'm going to refer back to Mr. Howe. I've lost count of the times he's done this on my Frost Hearts and then had his little tree pecked up. But yeah, look, I've got here that he's got good special rules other than the flammable.
Yeah,
He's tough, he's got lots of attacks, and he's got good strength, really good strength for the Wood Elf army book.
Yeah,
In fact,
yeah.
there really isn't anything much more on him. He's actually really survivable for the Wood Elf book as well. He's got 5 wounds and he's toughness 6.
Toughness 6.
So, you know, he's not all bad. I think his biggest issue, genuinely, is that he is a fighty character that is quite slow for an army that predominantly likes to move a lot and shoot a lot.
He's got minimum 5.
Moon 5,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, he can shoot, but
You have to buy it though.
you have to pay for it. It's not great.
No,
He's
not
got
really.
a hit.
12-inch range,
It's
strength 5.
a random number of shots.
Multiple shots D6 plus 1.
But if you like your monsters, and maybe if you're building like a defensive list, he's alright.
He's not bad. He's
I
not
like
bad as an
Trina.
anvil on his own.
Yeah, he's quite good to tie something
Yeah.
sort of decent up, isn't he? Because
Yeah.
he's probably not going anywhere. He's
I
leadership
do-
9.
I
not
like
bad,
tree
yeah.
men. I do like them.
And they do get quite a bit of stubborn stuff, the Wood Elves.
They do.
So
He's got his place, I think.
Yeah,
not in every list.
No.
But he's got a place.
he's just
certainly.
alright, basically. And I'll be honest, I haven't wrote any lists with Forest Spirits in.
No.
So sorry about that. But if you want to see one, put it in the comments and Scott will write one.
He doesn't know what does anymore.
So
That will be soon.
I'm done with flanking units. So I'm going to shoot into the next section, which is Wood Elf ranged units. Look, when you guys do it, we're all supposed to smile and be happy. When I do
Look,
it,
mine
all
were
faces.
fantastic.
Oh god, he's still digging it out.
I can't remember the ones. I can't remember the ones I put in my one. That's how bad they were.
Yeah, they were bad.
They were
So,
awful. Absolutely awful.
oh, shocking.
That's off the bat.
He's
That's off the bat.
Oh dear. Let's just leave it, yeah?
Ah.
So, we are going to look at Glade Guard, Glade Riders, Deepwood Scouts, and Weight Watchers. So, just the 4, which actually I was a bit like, oh, yeah. I
Yes,
thought there'd be
because
more, but
You've
that's,
got like 5 options for each of those units.
yeah, that's it. So, and in fact, that's where I'm going to start. So, I've going to check my cheat sheet and I'm going to read this out. So, I've put, we're going to take a look at the enchanted arrows available to Wood Elves at the start of this section. Now, we'll discuss each one briefly and explain what they do to the unit ratings of the models that you equip them with. So that way, when we discuss the range units, I don't have to be like, Glade Guard with Arcane Bodkin's score, Glade Guard with Hagbane Tip's score, you know,
Yeah.
you get the picture, guys. So if you mark these rating numbers down, you can then add them to the score for the units respectively as you do. So we'll start out by going through the effects of the arrows.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one up is Arcane Bodkins. Now these are 5 points a model, and they give you a +1, basically, onto
your sort of rating.
onto the unit rating
Yeah.
that takes them. So they're the same as a normal Azrael longbow. That's 30-inch range, strength 3, but they swap the armor piercing element of that for a -3 modifier to the armor save instead. So this adds one to the versatility score of the unit because it allows them to threaten heavier armored, be more of a threat against heavier armored targets. I actually like Bodkins. I think they're cool. I just think they're a bit expensive.
Yeah, they're too
5 points a
expensive.
model, and the whole unit has to buy the same arrow. So
Yeah,
the minimum
it's
10, that's a
a
minimum
lot.
50 points.
And that's why I can't take them.
Yeah.
It's just that sole reason.
Scouts, you can have obviously smaller, you can have 5. So you're looking at 25. But then I
But
don't
then
think
what's
you've got
the
enough
impact?
shots.
Yeah, there's no impact on that.
And I mean, Scout, at that point, you almost might as well be a Way Watcher for the points of that Scout.
Yeah, and to be honest, I could see you doing it. Say you played Warriors Cats every week you would Elves.
Yeah.
I'd do this all day long. But I certainly wouldn't like in a tournament.
I wouldn't.
setting.
No, I wouldn't take it.
If I was building an all-rounders list,
Yeah.
I'd leave Arcane Bodkins at home. And the reason is, I think that on the surface, Wood Elves struggle to deal with armour. But there are so many things, and we'll touch on them as we go through, that you can do
100%.
to augment that. And the most principal one is your Wood Elf wizards can all take metal.
Yeah.
Laura Metal.
Yeah.
So there are lots you can do. I
Yeah.
just don't think you need to go for Arcane Bodkins. But if you do, they'll have one to your versatility score. Number 2 is Hagbane Tips. So this is 3 points a model, and it adds 1 again. So these confer the same rules as a normal Azrael longbow: 30-inch range, strength 3, and armor piercing. They also confer poisoned attacks. So like the previous arrow, they add 1 to versatility because it gives you a bigger threat against tough units like monsters.
Yeah.
Scott's with me. Not a lot to say really. Hagbane are a really good choice.
They are. They're the joint cheapest of the 5 or 6 arrow selections.
Six,
arrow
yeah.
selections as well.
Which makes them insanely good as well, because poison's a great rule.
Yeah, they are, and they are one of the top 2 as well.
Yeah, I like them a lot. Not really a lot you can say, because they're
Not
good
really.
against
Yeah.
anything that's not immune to poison, so they're good against
Anything that's not an ogre wizard.
Yeah.
They do help against a lot with monsters, which I think Wood Elves struggle a lot of time to deal with.
They absolutely terrify Frostheart Phoenixes.
Yes,
they
they
do,
do.
yeah.
And do you know what? And Terragheist's another really competitive
And
nice
War
stuff.
Sphinxes.
And War
Scary
Sphinxes,
War Sphinxes,
another competitive
massively,
monster
yeah.
choice.
Demon Princes.
Demon
I suppose he's got the armour save.
He's got the arm save to ward it
He's got to
off.
make them though.
Yeah.
He's got to make them.
I just remember you playing you with your high elves when I was playing my wood elves, and you sat your frost hearts 35.5 inches away, so I couldn't move and shoot them.
But I think the big thing to bear in mind with Hagbane as well is that when you roll a 6 to hit, you've half the number of dice you need to roll to wound that model.
Yeah.
Because you don't now need to roll again.
Yeah.
That's what makes poison good.
Yeah.
You know, against everyone, regardless
Yeah,
of toughness.
yeah, it doesn't matter
It's just
if-
even better. You see the
Yeah.
gulf even more against those tough
Yeah, it
regiments.
doesn't matter if all you're fighting is night goblins. You still wound them more with poison than if
That's
you
it.
didn't have poison.
You take a night goblin, you still wound them 50% more.
Yeah.
So, you know, there you go. Hagbane tips are good.
Yeah.
The critical analysis from the Triple Crown Wargaming team.
Good.
Moving on to Moonfire shots now. Are these Moonfire shots or Moonfire shafts?
Moonfire shot.
They are shots.
And then it's Starfire Shaft.
Yeah, none of the arrows have the same second part of the name.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realise that.
I didn't
That's
notice
quite
that
cool. Yeah. So these ones are 4 points per model, and they again will add +1 to the rating. So they're the same as an Azrael Longbow again. 30 inch range, strength 3, armor piercing. Gonna keep repeating that. They also have flaming attacks and are +1 to wound against forces of order. So, like with the last two, it adds on to the versatility score generated by the unit because it allows them to strip regeneration and do extra damage to flammable targets.
And that's ignoring the +1 to wound as well. Just in that sort of... like,
just that
that
part,
flaming alone.
+1 to wound.
Yeah.
See, with both of these, I've got a little note that says they would actually add 2 because the next one's basically the same. But they can't because the regular Wood Elves already get 3. The Azrael Longbow already gives you 3 on versatility and 4's the cap. So they're just taking you up to the max cap basically on versatility. So I like these a lot, but I don't like them as much as the next ones. And the reason is because there isn't a huge amount of regenerating targets on forces of order.
Or flammable targets.
If you're playing other Wood Elves,
Other Wood Elves basically.
That's about
they're
it.
absolutely devastating. Tree men, tree kin.
I mean, yeah, they'd hurt them. I don't know if I'd say devastate.
I
but
mean,
they...
+1 to wound.
Oh
and
no, they'd be horrible.
+1 to wound.
Tree Man's got 4 up arms over against it.
And he's flaming.
Wounding him a third of the time. That's really.
And you're winning 5s.
Yeah.
I'd be worried about that because that +1's a win. But the problem is that you're not going to see a great deal. And again, when we talk about a deep dive, I'm just going to right back to the beginning. We're talking about competitive rating.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're talking about, well, you know, if you're going to a tournament, you're building a list that's competitive, and we're talking about all comers as well. We're not talking about going, oh, my mate collects treemen. He's got a treeman army. I don't know why he talks like that and why he's got an army of treemen. So, you know, I'm going to take these. You know, we're talking about an all-comers scenario.
Yeah.
And as a result, the Moonfire shot's probably not worth 4 points because you're not going to see a lot of regenning stuff. Now, the +1 to wound bits are right, I suppose. But again, forces of order, by and large, they're not very tough.
And I think the biggest thing, what I used to use these for when I had the army, when I used the Starfire, which is the next one, war machine hunting.
Yeah.
They're fantastic at that. And forces of destruction have more. There are more forces, more armies in the forces of destruction with war machines that you see at a competitive level.
Okay, didn't think about that.
Forces of order.
That's fair because they would be sort of helpful for wounding like Empire cannons or
Dwarf cannons.
but that is about it on
Bolt throwers.
bolt
Bolt
throwers. Oh, maybe we're being a bit unkind.
Yeah, but then you've
Hadn't
got
thought about
demons,
that.
you've got skull cannons, you've got the hell cannon from Warriors of
You've got
Chaos.
the Orcs Goblins and they're 10
You've got-
tons of
Yeah,
machines.
you've got dark elves with bolt throwers.
Yeah, okay. Well, so the
Skaven.
jury's out. They're all right, but we think Starfire are better.
Yes.
Now we'll move on to Starfire. Exactly the same points. Also give you a +1. Also to the versatility score, because they're the same arrow. They just instead of having +1 to wound against forces of order, they have +1 to wound against forces of destruction.
Yeah.
This we like a lot.
Yes.
And I think actually, just to touch back on the previous one, it's also about what you see competitively, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you do see like a lot of dirty, great regening monsters and dirty, great, horrible, much nastier than normal pieces of artillery on the forces of destruction side of things.
Hell pits and hell cannons.
Hell pits, hell cannons,
Hell cannons.
Skull cannons.
Skull cannons.
Trolls.
Trolls are a massive one.
Oh, it's
Crypt
just
horrors.
chimeras,
Chimeras, terrorgeists.
the goose.
Goose,
You
the
know,
geese, if you will. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
we're talking about it.
realistically, all that you see that's that sort of level of tough, really from the forces of order, is a Froststar Phoenix.
Yeah, which is not bad, but you know what also does then?
Hagbane tips.
Hagbane tips, baby.
No regen, so you don't get any benefit from flaming. Although I do feel like they probably should be flammable considering they're made of ice, so it should just melt them.
Maybe.
Maybe the old frost art melt stops the fire.
Maybe does.
No, they've got enough. They need to be flammable.
So Starfire shots, same as Moonfire shots, but they affect forces of destruction with the +1 to wound element.
Yeah.
In general, they're the better choice of the two.
Yeah.
Because you're going to find
Yeah,
they'll
definitely.
be more. Yeah, and they still retain their flaming as well. It is worth pointing out. Just don't get the +1 to wound. So it's not like you can't shoot Starfires at, a tree man and still do the flammable damage. It's just a little harder to wound him. So moving on to the last couple now, we're going to look at Swift Shiver Shards.
Said it really slowly, didn't you?
I did, yeah, and they're 4 points per model, and they're +1 again, and they add to versatility because these are the same as an Azrai Longbow again. They're 30 in range, strength 3 and armor piercing, but they also give you multiple shots too. So you don't see these all that often.
No, not really. Not really.
So I've got here, it allows them to threaten larger units more easily because they
more shots.
Have more shots. And I've also got very good with high magic.
Yeah,
and
and glory.
Boost the ballistic skill.
Yeah, and you see this with skinks as well, with multi-shot and
Yeah.
things like that, don't you, in the Lizardman army, and it works the same here.
Yeah.
Go down the multi-shot route and buff it up. So they're alright. They are more expensive than some of the others.
Yeah, and it's one you build your list around. It's not one you go, oh, well, I've got sort of, this standard-looking competitive Wood Elf army. I'm going to change that unit's arrows from, for example, Hagbane to Swift Shiver. Because on a unit of 10, it's you want to make the most of the Hand of Glory, so which means you want a bigger unit.
Yes.
So if you go a unit of, I don't know, sort of 25, 30, that sort of size, in a big unit, chuck them in a forest, so they can all shoot, and then boost their ballistic skill up to, they start at 4, so up to potentially 7. Multiple shots too, even at long range, you're still hitting on 3s for a bit of cover.
I think the difference with these to the others, and the last one we're going to discuss, that's worth just touching on, is you have to do something to really get the most out of these. With the others, you don't.
Yeah.
They do it for you.
Yeah.
But with these, you do have to kind of help them out, because otherwise they're not going to hit very much.
Yeah,
No.
you're probably going to be hitting on 5s most of the time with these if you don't boost them at all.
That's a good day as well, I think.
Because you're probably going to be at long range, or you're going to have moved, and that's if there's no cover.
So, jury's out on these. I think if you're going to build around them, they're good. Otherwise, probably leave them at home.
Yeah.
And probably leave them at home in favour of the final arrow, which are true flight arrows.
Yeah.
Now, these ones are 3 points a model, and they actually give you +2 to the rating instead of +1. So they're the same again as the Azrai Longbow, 30 in range, strength 3 and armor piercing. But the unit that has these don't suffer penalties to their hit rolls. So that's ignoring moving, cover, long range, spell effects other than lowering their ballistic skill. Now it adds 2 to your accuracy score. Now because they start on a 2, they can go to 4.
There you go.
But obviously, as we said, with the Moonfire and Starfire, they would take you up 2 if you could go up 2 as well. So I don't want to do them totally dirty. They're really amazing, and just to go back to the multiple shot arrow as well, if you think you've got 2 shots hitting on 5s, so you've got 20 shots hitting on 5s, which is going to be sort of 6 or 7 hits. You've got 10 shots hitting on 3s, it's going to be 6 or 7 hits. So it's a point less and it's about as good.
You're getting the same sort of effect.
Yeah, now that's very kind of analytical, I suppose, and obviously the more dice you throw, the more chance you've got of bucking the odds and scoring more hits than you should. So that's always worth thinking about too. But True Flight arrows are great. They're great.
Yeah.
They're Warhammer shooting on easy mode.
Yeah, they're with Hagbane tips. They're the sort of top 2 that you always see. I went back and forth between the 2. I think I settled on, because I had 4 units of 10 in my quarter, so I settled on 2 of each.
Yeah, I think this is where we're different, because I think they're different builds. I think you go, if you go say Hagbane, then I think I go leaning more to like high magic.
Okay.
And I lean a little more into kind of not taking spells that are more driven around damage. I take spells that may be a little more driven around sort of helping my guys stay alive, because I'm going to do the poison damage to get into those bigger targets. Whereas I think if I take True Flight, then I take those more aggressive nip spells because I know I haven't got the poison to fall back on. So like for bigger targets. So I think it's just slightly different, but I think, it's very hard to spare the 2 because they are so consistently good. So now you know that, you know what to add to the scores for the next units. The first unit we're going to look at is Glade Guard, and they can take all of those 6 magic arrow options we just discussed. And these guys come in with a 10 out of 24.
Okay.
Which I think is probably right if you consider them without arrows.
Yeah.
You know, so they get 2 for their threat range, 1 for the strength for their shot, 2 for their accuracy, 3 for their versatility, 0 for their survivability, and 2 for their cost. So they're your shooting bread and butter, basically.
This is the Wood Elf unit.
They're very versatile. They're pretty accurate. They're not very survivable.
No.
They're about the right points cost.
Yeah,
And as a
their
result,
own, yeah.
they're going to sit about the middle of the diddle on the rating system.
Yeah, no, that's
which
probably
is
fair.
probably right. Because ultimately, we've all seen it. All of us Wood Elf players. You know, you get that 1 or 2 Vargeists into your unit, or I mean, we was at Triple Crown GT last weekend. I saw a Cauldron of Blood on its own kill 4 units of them because with no witches left, it just drove chub its way around the back line, and honestly, it just
No, hang on top either.
no, it was just the remains of the carriage. So they just
really weird.
they do fall over because of that. So they're the classic glass hammer.
They are, yeah. I think just sort of touching back to the additional points the magic arrows give you, I think potentially some of them are maybe the arrows are too expensive and so would maybe drop a point on the cost. For example, if you put Arcane Bodkins on Glade Guard, 17 points a model for a Glade Guard, that's -3 to armour, they're a 1 for cost for me.
Well, actually, it's good that you mentioned that because you've reminded me of something that I was going to put on the cheat sheet but didn't in my haste. Don't be hasty. Oh, tree joke. So, the thing that I'm going to say is, in our article library, which depends when you watch this video, it might now be called something new.
It might.
So, shall we? Well, we might as well reveal what it's going to be called.
Well, I mean, you'll probably be watching it. Chances are when it's been moved, so it will be. It won't quite be articles. So originally it was articles. It was sort of written. Article. Now it's more like a sort of podcast
type thing,
isn't it? Really,
it's the same thing, but we read it. There you go. It's the same thing, but we speak about it rather than writing it down.
having it written down.
There you go.
But it's all the same thing.
So it's going to be in that section of the website that comes out on a Tuesday, and in there, Scott's did a really great piece about the sort of best arrows for each unit type.
Yes, I believe it was called the Arrows of the Azrai.
There you go. So check out the Arrows of the Azrai. On the website, because that will help you to kind of pin some of what Scott was just
it goes
saying.
more into detail about all of the arrows. Essentially, obviously you've heard what they all do now, but it goes into sort of what type of units I think they're really good on.
Yep.
Whether I think they're just too expensive to ever really be any good, that sort of thing.
There you go. So worth checking that out if you've not already done it, because it's another great resource. So I think we'll move on.
Yeah.
I think we'll move on to Glade Riders. So second core unit in this section, and these guys come in with another 10 out of 24. So much potential, so many problems.
Yeah.
So 3 for threat range on these guys. They are quick, and they get round with their bows. You're talking about like a 48-inch threat range.
Yep.
On these guys.
18-inch mark.
Fast cav, yeah.
Really quick. 1 for strength of shots, 2 for accuracy, 3 for versatility, nothing for survivability again, and 1 for cost.
Yeah.
So the ambusher special rule on these guys is a killer.
Yeah.
It is horrendous.
It can mean they don't turn up at all. It can mean they turn up much later than you want. And this is why they get 1 for cost. And I want to touch on this.
Yeah.
Is that I think they rock in with about 19 points.
19 points a model.
There you go. Without the magical arrows. You put the magical arrows on them and they are sort of better than, say, an Illyrian Reaver, which is about the same points.
So minimum they're 22 points a model.
Yeah, but, and it's a big but, that Illyrian Reaver's on the table at the start of the game.
Yeah, these guys have no choice.
He's there for me when I need him to be there, or her to be there. You know, other elves are available. But these guys might not be.
Oh, well, they're
definitely not there on turn 1.
Start,
yeah, and they might not be there on turn 2.
Yeah.
That's a huge kick for these guys.
Yeah, and the smallest change to ambushers means you would see these guys in every single...
I think
if you made it a choice,
yeah.
if the rulebook was said, if you have ambushes, you may be placed in ambush. These guys, at least 2 units of 5, every single list.
These guys, for me, would become a 4. They'd become one of the most undercosted units in Warhammer.
Yeah, because to be honest,
Because what do you do about them? How do you catch them?
yeah,
Horrible.
Yeah, you ain't catching them.
I probably wouldn't even give them magical arrows at that point. I'd keep them cheap as chips, and I'd be like, you're just not catching them.
Or, I don't know, I'd be tempted.
Maybe true fight, maybe for the cheapest arrow.
I've got here, they have lots of potential, but they really do, more often than not, fail to live up to it.
Yes.
I really want to like them. And in fact, I am going to talk about them quite a bit later. But... spoilers again, but they aren't great. Sorry,
No.
guys. Certainly not in that competitive sense.
Not really, no.
With the exception of really leaning into it, which I think we'll talk
Yeah,
about a bit later.
you either go all in
Or nothing.
or just nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to move on to Deepwood Scouts, and these come in with a 12 out of 24. So with the arrows, you kick these guys up to quite a handsome
14,
rating. Yeah. So they get there with 3 for threat range, 1 for strength of shots, 2 for accuracy, 3 for versatility, nothing for survivability, and 3 for cost. So best rating so far for shooting unit.
Yeah.
So far.
Now these guys can be absolutely epic thanks to their increased maneuverability and their points efficiency and flexibility. They really are great.
Yeah.
They're really cheap. I mean, I take these with Starfire arrows. I take units of 6. They're small. They tuck around all the places I want. They get tight. They deliver for me. They've got scout. They're skirmish. They're tricky to deal with, and they're 105 points or 106 points. Who cares? I know you killed them.
Fantastic war machine hunters as well.
They are.
Yeah.
Because even if you don't kill them with shooting, you're still an elf. You go in and you attack first with 6 attacks.
Yeah. They're threatening from turn 1.
Yeah.
Scout if you want them to, and you can use them up as chaff in the late game because they cost you no points.
Yeah.
You love to see it.
Yeah, they
You
really
love to
are
see
very
it.
good.
They stand out for me. I love them. The only, if they were, the only sort of downside, I suppose, they're special and don't come at your core. But I mean, they'd be absolutely broken.
There would be. Can you imagine? Poor skirmishing archers.
Oh, I can imagine a lot of things.
Oh my.
So
You're living in a dream world.
Yeah.
Come on now.
You're living in a world where you see nothing but skirmishing archers is what you're living in.
That's exactly where I'm living. So we are going to move on from Deepwood Scouts to our final unit now. And this unit is Weight Watchers, and it's the first of the... and in fact, it's the only one of the shooting units we're going to discuss that can't take those magical arrows. So the rating these guys have got is the rating they're getting, if that makes sense. There's no pumping this one up. So they're a 13 out of 24. So they get 3 for threat range, 1 for strength of shots, 3 for accuracy, 4 for versatility, 0 for survivability, and 2 for cost. So the reason we get to that 4 for versatility is because the Weight Watcher shots are sort of mentioned specifically as 1 point, but if you take the multiple shots, they get 2 special rules. They get multiple shots, and they get retain their armor piercing from their Azrai bows. So they get the 2 off that list.
Yeah.
So we give them a. When I said Weight Watcher shots, I meant the ones that ignored armor saves. Because I can remember what they were called. So
It's Hawk-Eyed Archer is special we were after.
yeah, so that's the one that I put on the I got you to put on the deep dive rating explanation because I couldn't remember the name at the time. But yeah, so these guys they're good. They're good against a lot of different unit types as well because they can shoot 2 shots each, a ballistic skill 5, which is wicked, or 1 shot each that ignores armor save.
Yeah.
Now we go back to our cheeky Laura Shadow mate.
Yeah.
He's a good friend to these guys. He loves it. Drops their toughness. Bosh, bosh, bosh. No armour save for you. Take off your heavy cavalry. See you later, Chaos Knights. But they do still suffer with that classic Wood Elf drawback, which is
They
cost quite a bit and they're not very survivable.
Yeah, they cost a lot. They are 20 points a model.
They are at lots of points.
And that rating, they are 1 point higher than a Deepwood Scout with no magic arrows. As soon as you put any of the magic arrows on those Deepwood Scouts, they are at least as good on the ratings.
Yeah. These are better than Deepwood Scouts for the War Machine thing, though, I think, because like the charging in part,
Yeah,
they get 2 attacks each.
2 attacks. But if you've got 6 Deepwood Scouts, you probably don't need 12 attacks, to be fair, because War Machine generally have got 3 crew with very little armour.
You got SF.
Exactly.
And even if you don't kill it, it ain't shooting, is it?
Yeah, exactly. So they're probably not going to kill you and you're not going to run away.
So I'd rather have these guys shooting with their special arrows rather than in combat with war machines.
Yeah, that's a fair point too. I think overall, they're all right. they're just alright because they're a lot of points and they are a bit risky.
I used to use a unit of between 5 and 10 it would vary, but I used to use a unit of them pretty much every game I played. And I was like, oh, they just look so good, they're so good, and they are really good on paper.
Less so on the table.
You get them onto a game, and unless you've built your laws of magic and your spells and everything around them, which you can do, but then you're almost neglecting, or you have to at least build the rest of your list around that as well, that same core of spells and magic.
Yeah.
Unless you do that, they are never going to perform for you.
Well,
I think you have to invest.
I think
lots of
that
points
it's harder
into
for them to perform for you. I don't know about never.
Well, you take 10 of them shooting at Empire Knights, which is probably their best day at the office. The lowest toughness, best armour save
probably.
Sort of unit they can shoot.
Yeah. Could we take 9? Because that's probably easier to mathematically
Sure,
do.
go with 9.
So we'll take 9. So what? We say they're hitting on 3s because they're at long range.
Yeah, or they've moved.
Or something equally unpleasant.
Yeah, so they kill 3. They hit 6 times.
75 points, that's pretty good. The problem I find with them is that one soul quench, that one fireball, and the unit's devastated or dead. And that's why I think that they have that drawback.
Or just a little bit of good placement, a little bit of good deployment even from your opponent. And they can't be placed anywhere where they can't get charged. And then they get charged and they don't. Yeah, they're elves, they've got ISF, they've got 2 attacks.
Just not place them in your own deployment zone, didn't you, rather than scout?
Yeah, but and then they're going to get caught at some point.
Yeah. Look, I think we could wax lyrical about Weight Watchers for quite some time. That they're good, but they're probably, if you're min-maxing your points, they're probably one that you leave.
Yeah.
Because they're quite expensive.
Yeah.
So, that's a lot. Sorry, it's just been a lot so far, hasn't there? I'm just taking a quick breather and looking back at my cheat sheet to find the bit that we're on. Really, we've just chomped through all those shooting units, and you've alluded to it there, and I know you're a big fan of the next part too, Max, which is fundamentally, if you're going to have that much shooting, it's all about your chaff game now.
Yes.
You've got to protect
it
the
has to be
shooting.
on point.
It's got to be strong. And so we're going to take a look at the chaff units that Wood Elves have available to them. And we've gone with 4.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got Glade Riders, Deepwood Scouts, War Dancers, and Great Eagles. So now, as ever, we'll take a moment to say lots of units can be employed as chaff in games of Warhammer. You could choose to use small units of Glade Guard or other type things from your Wood Elf book. Or even as someone was, I can't remember if it was on camera or off camera, someone said, have we thought about Dryads?
That might be.
Yeah, I mean, we thought about Dryads, a bit of chaff. But
I mean, you could use Weight Watchers if you wanted to throw away points.
yeah, you could. Well, 5 Weight Watchers, 100 points. Well, it's not horrendous for chaff, but it's not good. But what we're going to focus on are the ones that we think are designed primarily with sort of chaffing in mind, or that do the job best for their points, basically. So, as I say, that's Glade Riders, Deepwood Scouts, War Dancers, and Great Eagles that we're going to take a stab at. So we start with Glade Riders. Now, they get 13 out of 24 as chaff. So they get 4 for manoeuvrability, 2 for the number of attacks, 2 for special rules, 4 for slot, 0 for survivability, and 1 for cost. So, better than shooting, but they're just problematic to use as chaff. They've got all of the kind of characteristics that would define them as a good chaff
Really
regiment.
good chaff,
Fast
Fast cav, core.
Except the ambushers kills their performance in terms of protecting your backline units.
Yeah,
which
for
can't be
redirecting,
sure
they're
there.
awful.
Can't be redirecting if you're not on the board at that point in time.
Exactly.
Can't-
For war machine hunting,
Well,
they're not that bad.
Yes and no, because they can't charge turn they come on. They don't come until turn 3. We treat them as dead anyway.
Yeah, you give them Starfire or Moonshot at bows, they could do it when they turn up.
Potentially, yeah. So I've sort of given them a 1 for cost in this part because they're just really ineffective for their points at doing it. So, look, I've got here, unless you're going to run an all-mannered avoidance list, these guys are not a good choice for chaff either, I'm afraid. Even though that rating is really pumped up by the fact that they get 4 for being core and they get 4
for manoeuvrability.
4 for dancing around really well.
Yeah. Like I said before, if ambushers was a choice or they didn't have it, they would be in every single Wood Elf list.
Yes.
In one way or another, they'd be in every list you see.
And that Wood Elf list would be the most obnoxious Wood Elf list to have to
I mean,
play
if
against.
you went full avoidance, yeah, absolutely. But even in a sort of more traditional, you've got some archers at the back, just use them as chaff.
Yeah, they'd be good.
It's just high elves, but they just hurt you more from range.
Yes. So I'm going to move us on
Yep.
to our second helping of Deepwood Scouts. So these guys get a 9 out of 24 in this slot. So it is a drop in performance, quite a significant one. And we get there with 2 for maneuverability, 1 for number of attacks, 1 for special rules, 2 for their slot, so they don't get great on slot, 0 for survivability, and I've put 2 for their cost. And we gave them 3 before, and that's because they're the right cost, but you can exploit them. And as a shooting unit, you give them the flaming arrows, and you can exploit them. You can make them do a lot of work for your army. You don't have to invest a lot of your block shots into getting flaming, so you can sort of duck around Dragonbane and stuff like that. Here they don't get, they're not sort of being used in that luxury way. No. You're better to just keep them as cheap as possible if you're going to just throw them away. So I think really that's why they're best employed. If you're thinking about them as chaff, they're best employed first and foremost in that offensive control-y role, and then used late on as chaff. Yeah. If you must, they're your final.
Yeah, I've already killed 3 war machines with these and finished off a few units and sort of done all I can. Now I need to stop this unit charging my Wild Riders or charging my Wizards unit or something like that. They're good in a pinch. They are good at it, but it's not what you'd buy them for. Yeah,
they're like the first unit you choose after you've used all your other chaff units. If you need more chaff, is what we're saying. So now I'm going to move on to 2 that are really good at it. The 2 best in the book for it. Yeah. And the first one is War Dancers, and they get 14 out of 24 as chaff. So they get that with 2 for maneuverability because it's the skirmish and that. 2 for number of attacks because they get 2 hand weapons. 4 for special rules for the shadow dances we discussed earlier. 2 for slot, 2 for survivability, and 2 for cost because they're really well costed in this role. There's argument you could say 3 for cost even because they're very cheap. But these guys offer you fantastic value as chaff. They've got enough attacks to kill other chaff. They are good at killing war machines alike because they've got lots of attacks. And at their points cost, 75 points for a unit of 5. So we are talking about the 5-man, the minimum unit size. 75 points, you can lose that as a redirector in a scenario and not break a sweat whatsoever.
Yeah, and with their dances, which Max went through earlier, if you need to hold something for a turn, you'd start 3-up ward save.
Yeah.
Especially if you can get them in a wood.
I was just about to say, you know what? Because they're skirmishers, they are stubborn in a wood.
Yes.
So you get them in a wood, get a 3-up ward save on them. I remember playing Max with 40 Black Orcs. Charged them.
I think Max remembers that as well. From that inhale of breath.
Charged them in there like a big boy into the woods. Have some venom thicket, dangerous terrain, mate. Take a few off. 3-up ward save on the boys and girls in the wood. I'm so Essex right now. I love it. Stubborn, leadership 9. You love to see it.
Leadership 8.
Well, my general's around.
That was not a good time. I think 40 Black Orcs went into the woods. 12 came out.
It was really bad.
The dangerous terrains has really affected me.
And again, they're so good as well because the turn after that, or even the turn when you think you're going to throw them away, you get them in base contact with a character if you can. You place your redirect in sort of positioning in a way where they'll have, to contact the character. You go extra attack, killing blow.
When you going first, you would always get to strike.
Their weapon skill 6 as well.
Yeah. They are, very high weapon skill. I think they're initiative 6.
They are initiative 6 as well, yeah.
So War Dancers in that chaff role, really great, really worth considering. And that brings us to our final chaff unit, which are Great Eagles, and they also get 14 out of 24.
It's a new unit.
It is. It's their only appearance. So they get 4 for maneuverability because they fly. 3 for their number of attacks, 1 for their special rules, 1 for their slot, 1 for their survivability, and 4 for their cost. Yeah, they're so cheap for what they do. 50 points, incredible. They're fast, they are cheap. I'm just looking at what I've got written here. In fact, their only letdown is that they're a rare slot choice.
Yeah, that really is their biggest letdown.
The rare slot isn't particularly contested.
It isn't, no,
not massively.
And unless you go sort of tree men, there really isn't much else in there.
Away watchers as well. Possibly.
Yeah, it's tree men or away watchers in.
All the expensive stuff except Eagles, which is cheap.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, 40mm base, you get them into any little sort of hole in your enemy's battle line.
And again, because they fly, you can get them out of that hole and get them where you want them as well.
They're fantastic.
So yeah, I've got most of what you just said. That they aren't that survivable, but that can be countered by the small base and the fact that wings don't count for line of sight. So yeah, very good, very good. You really, can go a long way wrong by not taking eagles, if you like.
Yeah.
They're really good. I think there's always an argument for one in a rounded list.
Yeah, to be honest, for 100 points, I'd probably have to.
So we've just got one more battlefield roll to go before we start chopping into our special characters.
We
guys.
do.
And it's the only generic unit we've not touched on yet.
It is.
And these are the only support unit in the Wood Elf book. In fact, the last couple of deep dives we've filmed haven't had any support units.
Yeah.
No.
So it's been really nice to get one back out again. And for the Wood Elves, it's the Sisters of the Thorn. Now, I know these are a real fan favourite of Scott's.
Yeah, I love
and
these ones.
these ladies come in with a competitive rating of 19 out of 24.
I am not
Is
surprised.
that the same as the Wild Riders?
It is. You may see to Scott's right there, we've got some Sisters and some Wild Riders because we thought we'd just bring the best for you guys today.
And a Dark Wizard by the looks of it.
Yeah, and a BSB.
BSB, classic.
And
some Blade Guard.
Guard because you've got to have Blade Guard.
They're cool.
So they the Sisters get their score with 4 for manoeuvrability, 4 for special rules, 2 for synergy, 4 for risk, 2 for survivability, and 3 for their cost.
Yeah.
They're great. They're
Yeah.
really great.
Yeah.
So they are a level 2 wizard that adds an additional point to their casting value for every rank after the first.
Every full rank of 5 after the
Yes.
first.
So
Yeah.
maximum +3.
So they can be up to +5 to cast,
Yeah.
which is
I
cool.
mean, if you have a staggeringly large unit, yes, they could be up to
and
+5.
they're good in all sizes, I think, actually, these guys. They're good small,
Yeah,
they're actually
you
good bigger
can,
as well.
You can sort of go.
They hold their
unit of
points.
5,
Pointed that you can do a lot of really mad stuff with them, like make an awesome bunker for your wizards and
you almost never lose.
put some magic resistance on them. And
Never lose unless your Hellcannon goes crazy. Hey, Scott.
and it just moves around. It doesn't get caught up. Fantastic. So yeah, I mean they've got 2 fixed spells. They've got Shield of Thorns, which is not amazing, but the lore attribute's good.
Yeah.
You can
That's true.
keep tipping your characters
Yeah.
back up, and it's all right. Again, you drop it on Glade Guard. It's done before the fight,
Yeah.
so you can do some cheap damage. It's nice. But the second one, Curse of Amrahir.
Oh,
Curse of Amrahir is such a good
wow.
I love this spell.
So you put it on an enemy unit. It's got a huge range, 36 at the base level, and everyone in the unit, if they move for any reason, they take a dangerous terrain test. They fail on a 1 or a 2,
A third of the people are dying.
and they're also -1 to hit.
Shooting and combat.
Just in case,
Yeah.
it wasn't good enough.
Oh, it's fantastic.
It's great control. It's really good against hordes as well. And horde,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm saying hordes. I'm not talking about the horde formation. I'm talking about hordes of figures. So it's really good against large units because that's something Widows find harder to deal with.
Yeah.
Because of the way the army's structured. They don't have a lot of anti-big units because they can't grind all that well.
They generally do rely on their magic for that.
Yes, they do. And so I think that spell is brilliant, and that
Yeah, it's
alone
fantastic.
makes them great.
Yeah.
They've also got shooting, 12-inch range,
Yeah.
strength of user. So as you said, if you
Cheeky
if you
Wizards
Wistons
Wild
them, it's strength 4 then instead of 3, which is quite good. But they're also poison
Yeah.
shots,
Yeah.
The Strox hard poisons as well. Yeah.
which is another thing where I look at True Flight in my core
Mm.
when I'm taking
Yeah.
when I'm taking some of these because I get my poison out my special.
Yeah. They're ballistical 5 as well.
Yeah, and they're quick to fire, I believe. Or maybe not. I might have made the last one up.
No, you didn't.
The
make
javelins aren't. I didn't know
No.
if the sisters had it.
No, they don't know.
Also, the sisters have poison attacks in combat too.
They do.
They do.
Yeah.
So again, if you're really in a pinch for pressure,
Mm.
you can drop them in. And
I think the javelins are armor piercing though, aren't they?
They are.
the javelins are armor piercing. Yeah.
So they're not armor piercing in combat, but they're ranged weapons. They're armor piercing.
Yeah, and they're poison all the time.
Yeah.
Which is really good. You just love to see them. They're so
Yeah.
good.
Their steeds are randomly strength 4 as well.
Yeah, Steed Elisha.
Yeah, just headbutt. you.
Better than the rider.
Yeah.
I really like them. Like James said, you can use them in sort of minimum units of 5, which I didn't really do. I used them in either an 8 or a 10, and I put 2 characters in there, which was either a level 4 and a level 2, a level 4 and a BSB, or as it was towards the end, double level 4. Absolutely fantastic. They
You had a chat with me. Thought that was a good shout.
They come with a 4+ ward save for the sisters. You put MR2, Magic Res 2 on one of the characters in that unit. You put a 4-up ward on the other, who is always going to be your general. Yeah, and it's about 800 points, just over, that you're just never getting.
You're not catching it, no.
You just don't catch them.
And we are going to discuss sisters
Yeah.
again quite heavily when we look at competitive army lists at the end of this video.
Yeah.
So if you're liking the sound of what you're hearing,
Yeah.
make sure you stick around for that part. Now, that does come to the end of all of the units that we're going to be reviewing. It just leaves us with our special characters. But it does sound, as one of us who's leading the video always says, it does sound like an excellent time for you to grab yourself a beverage. So let's take 5. I'm going to grab a Coke. Other beverages are available. So you've earned it. You've stuck with us this far. And we're going to see you again real soon once you've had that refresher to discuss the 5 Wood Elf special characters. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed your beverage. I'm certainly feeling refreshed. How about you, chaps?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
ready for the special characters.
Ready to dive in, are
Thirsty
we?
for more.
Thirsty for more. So we are going to start today with Orion, King of the Woods, the big man.
Big man himself.
Now, Orion gets 16 out of 24 for his competitive rating. That's pretty good.
Pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, 4 for output, 3 for special rules, 3 for synergy, 1 for risk, 4 for survivability, and 1 for cost. Now, I'm just going to take a moment to say that his 4 for output is based on the next best combat-y thing we can compare him to, which is a Glade Lord. Now, obviously, he's going to bash a Glade Lord.
He's a monster. He's quite literally a monster.
He would absolutely devastate a Glade Lord's day.
Yeah.
In the forest.
Yeah. So that is, if you compare him to, like, say, a Demon Prince, which is kind of what he is, then his output is sort of relatively comparable and wouldn't be as high. But obviously, you can only, you can't
take
a framework
pure Demon Prince.
Yeah, there's a framework you have to work within, if you like. So his biggest drawback is his cost, and crucially his opportunity cost, which we don't sort of cover in the rating system. We do always talk about. So he's 600 points.
He is 600. He's a lot of points.
And that's without his dog mates, which are another 20 points.
Yeah,
although
arguably make him worse.
Yeah, I wouldn't take his dog mates because they become a regiment then. And then that kind of messes up his manoeuvrability. Because at least when he's a single model, he can pivot about a bit and get moving. And he's quite quick. I think he's 9.
He's moving 9. He's a fast boy.
He's quicker than Elven Steed.
He certainly is. So he gets a good score for synergy, and I think that's one that is worth talking about. And that's because of his Horn of the Wild Hunt, which does what, Max?
His little toot-toot.
His little toot-toot he has on hand. It's an enchanted item. So at the start of each turn, the Horn of the Wild Hunt grants devastating charge to Orion, his unit, so his pooches, and all friendly Wood Elf units within 6 inches. This lasts until the end of that turn.
So it's good on Eternal Guard. It's alright on Rangers.
They have to charge though. Like, you don't want the Eternal Guard always see just sitting back at the back in your wood.
Yeah.
Yeah, that rule, that sort of the fluff sort
Essence
of around
of it, if you like.
The fluff around it should affect Wild Riders.
But they've
already got devastating charge, so they don't need it.
So
if they gave devastating charge, but gave the Wild Riders an additional attack on top,
plus 1.
Yeah.
it's like super devastating, super heavy.
I'd tell you what, he'd be in my list.
Imagine.
But as he stands, he is not in my list because he stops me having level 4.
You should have 2 level 4s.
Or even, let alone the second one, the first one. And he's a lot of points.
He has a lot of magic items though.
He'll do a lot of damage if he gets there. I know he's got a good, very good for a Wood Elf especially, survivability score, but he is a single model, and they are always. You do always find they're that little bit easier to kill than characters in regiments. Or I say a little bit easier. Normally a lot easier to kill than characters in regiments, because everything you throw at them hits them. It doesn't sort of get passed off onto their unit.
I mean, as Max said, he does hit like a ton of bricks.
He does absolutely.
I mean, go on. He's got a bow that's multiple shots 6.
At strength 5.
Strength 5.
And he's bliss skill 8, so he's going to be hitting a lot with it.
Or he can lob the spear.
He can just chuck his spear.
Basically a bolt throw.
18
short
range,
bolt throw.
strength 7, not points D3.
And use the same rule as a bolt throw, so he can pierce the
an
range.
18-inch range bolt throw.
And no armor saves, which is good.
No armor saves in combat with that as well.
Both of those, you have to not march.
Be in combat.
You have to not march and be in combat. And
Movement 9 offsets the marching because he's basically still moving more than any of the average speed marchers out
he's
there.
unbreakable, so you don't care if he charges 100 things if he might survive. So you want you want him in. I think you want him in. That's my big problem with
You
him.
do want to just go a lot, chuck yourself in there, yeah.
His magic defense is okay. He's MR2 and he's got a 5
5
armor
armor, so
save.
he's got 3 up against magic.
He's
magic
like a
attacks.
slightly better forest spirit, if you like.
Yeah.
So
And then he can regain a wound at the beginning of each turn on a 6, which gives him a lot of his survivability.
score. Yeah. So look, he's so close to being worth taking, but because you don't get level 4s at 2,500 points with him, he's a big problem. Because you don't get a wizard, I think he's a big issue for you, because Wood Elves, they just really need that in their life.
Massively so.
Some armies can survive without wizards.
Yeah.
I think Wood Elves
I'm not one
really
of them.
do struggle.
Yeah.
So we think leave him at home, but maybe in bigger games he's worth thinking.
Yeah.
Certainly if I was playing like 3,000 or 4,000 points, he'd
yeah.
probably be on the team sheet. Yeah, I like a bit of that.
Brings out his 2-2.
Talking of big dudes that want to get on your team sheet, is Durthu. Now, he is an ancient tree man who
He's
comes
the biggest
in
of the big.
with a competitive rating of 16 out of 24. Which is wrong, it's 15 out of 24 because I can't read. Sorry guys. So he comes in with 15 out of 24. Now he gets 4 for output, 3 for his special rules, 1 for his synergy, 1 for his risk, 4 for his survivability, and 2 for his cost. So the reason that he gets 3 for his special rules and not 4, because he has got stubborn and hatred, which is really strong. He's going to do lots of damage. Is that he's flammable?
Yeah,
He is
all
flammable.
the other tree men and the tree men ancients, he is a flamey boy.
He does have a 6th wound,
He does, yeah.
which makes no difference if he gets hit by fire,
Nope.
because it still takes 3
Still
wounds to kill.
He's strength 6 instead of strength 5.
That's massive.
Yeah.
And he's weapon skill 7.
Yeah, has he got an extra attack as well?
He does,
He
yeah.
does. In fact, I think he might have 2. He's got frenzy and has he got...
Oh, he has frenzy, he has hatred.
Yeah,
so he
he
has
gets
7
an
attacks.
extra
He's got 2. He's got
2,
1
yeah,
extra on
over-
his profile.
Over a tree
Yeah.
man and like double a tree man ancient.
Yeah.
which is
I
really
really like Durthu. He will mess anything up he gets in contact with.
He's also in
it's
ship
just getting
10,
Yeah.
which
Yeah,
is
which is
wicked.
good.
But he has got, as Scott just said, he has got to get in combat with
Yeah.
whatever he wants to mess up. But so yeah, so
you could definitely build around him though.
yes. He's all level 1 wizard and lore of beasts. So
It's nice.
Yeah, probably just throw him on whistles. I mean, you'd roll it, see
If
what
he
he got.
Savage Beast of Horror on himself, could you imagine?
what you want to do, you take Transformation Kadon, transform the tree into a giant tree dragon.
You can't, because he's not infantry.
Oh, that's upset. Ruin my dreams.
Is transformation of Kadon infantry only?
I'm pretty sure it's infantry.
I don't think it is, because people change ogre bruisers into chimeras and...
Bruisers?
I thought it was
Bruisers?
Bruisers.
Butchers.
That's a good one, isn't it? I thought it was my infantry, monstrous infantry only.
No, I don't think so.
Not what monster to monsters.
Yeah?
Yeah, why
The
not?
wizard.
Transmonstification, if you will.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just the wizard. Either way, don't take it. If you roll a 6, take whistles.
Take Wissons,
Yeah.
because Durtu is good.
He's
Yeah.
good. He also has Lamentation Despairs, which is a shoot and attack. It's 12-inch range, strength 2, mob shots 2d6, so not particularly great, but then it's killing blow. So you just also just killing blow all those that impromptu unit of characters you may see around.
Yeah, I think we've been very jestful with him, but I think with Durthu, like most of those types of combat characters,
You've got to build around him.
you've got to build around him. He is risk because he's got to
Yeah.
go in and get stuck in, and
He's got to get there to do
he
anything,
doesn't-
anything at all.
we're back to something that doesn't fit necessarily with the ethos of the rest of the army. Best units in this army are quick units that manoeuvre around.
Yes.
So really, all you're doing is taking this big target and going, "Look at me, attack me," you know, and it's not so good when he's your general.
No,
No.
he's going to have to be unless you take
he's
him.
leadership 10, so you
Yeah.
because you're not going to.
I mean, you could probably squeeze in a level 4 with him as well.
There's only leadership 9.
Yeah, no, I'm just
Yeah.
saying if you wanted level 4 as well as Durthu.
Yeah,
Well, you'll get
Yeah.
the 2, yeah, but
Yeah.
it's the it's
Look, if you wanted a themey tree spirit army, there is no reason you shouldn't go there.
no, he's 100% where
Yeah,
you start.
absolutely. He is first guy on the team sheet. If you want a top tier competitive Wood Elf army, I'd probably leave him at home.
I would, but I would paint his model. He's nice.
It's sad
So,
times.
so we're going to move on to the last Lord choice in our special characters section today, and that is Araloth, who comes in with a just eye-watering 9 out of 24. He unfortunately...
He's the lowest in the book, isn't he?
He's the lowest.
Certainly the lowest we've discovered so far. Whether that gets stolen from him, it won't get stolen from him. We're not
gonna lie to you.
So,
we ain't gift wrap this.
He gets 1 for output because when you compare him to a Glade Lord, he is disappointing.
Yeah.
He gets 3 for special rules, 1 for synergy, 1 for risk, 2 for survivability, and 1 for cost.
He's staggeringly overcosted.
So I've got some nice points that I'll read. And
some nice points?
Yeah, they're nice because they're succinct. Poor survivability, lots of points, poor output, not very good. So,
definitely succinct.
Yes, we gave him 2 for his output. We gave him a 1 for his output. Sorry, we could have given him a 2 because of the eye thief, but it's not very consistent and probably not worth an extra point on output.
He's actually rewarded for going on his own, but he cannot survive on his own.
No. He's got a 4-up ward save, which is why he gets 2 for survivability, because that's it.
Then that's it.
But he is unbreakable if he's on his own. But I mean, what are you gonna?
He's not unbreakable if he's dead.
Well, and he.
I'm sorry, but he isn't.
He's best in a unit. If you're really going to stick with him, he's best in a unit.
Yes, stubborn. So he'll give your.
He buffs 1 unit.
But that's the thing.
He'll
What do you put him in?
He'll give you a Wild Ranger stubborn, mate.
Yeah, that's all he's really good in, because Eternal Guard, the only other infantry combat block, are already stubborn.
Mate, makes your Glade Guard.
I just want to point out though, if you really, really desperately, for some unfathomable reason, want to put a stubborn character in a stubborn Glade Lord in a unit of Wild Rangers, take a Great Weapon, take the Armour of Silver Steel,
and the Crown of Command.
And the Crown of Command.
Yeah.
Or
and
take
save like loads of points.
Or take any other combination that's available that's better, and there are lots.
There is a way you can take him, and that's as your BSB, because he's a nice model for conversions.
Yes, I've got that point here too. As Araloth, you hate to see him as the basis for a BSB conversion. You love to see him, and we've got him there. And
one of those classic holding a spear up makes perfect BSB models.
Yeah, and
I like Chaos Lord Araloth model.
I will get some pictures of that up at some point, I'm sure.
Chris Howe, I know, speaking of him earlier, has got that model as well. That
it was on the Saturday Showcase actually, not too long ago.
Yeah.
So dig through the Saturday Showcase archives on Instagram or on Facebook, and find the Horde of Wood Elves from Chris, and you'll see another version of the same idea there.
Yeah.
So we're just going to move on. There's
not a lot else to say. Is there? He's rubbish.
He's
just rubbish.
And we're going to look at the 2 remaining special character choices, or the 2.5 as I'm calling them now, which is 2 heroes, and the first one is Naestra and Arahan, which are the Sisters of Twilight, as they're known. And those who have played Total War, they're so good on Total War.
God, I wish they were half as good as they were on Total War.
Does that translate well into game, James?
Well, let's find out.
Let's find out.
So I've actually got 2 competitive ratings for these guys. It's not 1 each. It's 1 for them on Gwyndalor, which is the eagle, and it's 1 for them on Sithenhar.
Kethinhar.
I think it's Kethin. Yes.
Kethinhar.
Very Welsh name, Kethinhar.
Kethinhar.
The Welsh forest dragon.
So I like that I do, boyo. We're really sorry to anyone who's Welsh because that is appalling for us.
It's not unusual to be out of the forest.
Oh dear, get in the valleys. So yes. Now I want to point out that
It's just the Welsh dragon.
I want to point out, I want to get us back onto professional. I want to point out that with Gwyndalor, what we do at Triple Crown, and it definitely was in the FAQ, but when I looked at this year's pack just before we opened this video up, it seems to have been lost in the FAQ, so it needs to go back in, is we say that you treat Gwyndalor as a monstrous mount, but just for the purposes of attacking Naestra, Arahan and Gwyndalor.
Yeah.
So they're separate. Well, you choose who you hit. If you fire them, and you randomise if you shoot.
Yeah.
But otherwise, they're still a monstrous beast for everything else. It's just when you're actually shooting or hitting or spelling them. Because otherwise, the special rule, the conjoined stuff, Conjoined Destiny. It doesn't work.
Yeah, when you say monstrous amount, you mean a monster who is a mount, as opposed to being monstrous cavalry, which is the actual
what they
type
actually are. Yeah.
that it is. Yeah.
So that's a small change you make to allow their rule to work.
You just make the rule moot. There's going to be no point of the
It
rule
makes them even worse than they are.
Yeah.
On Gwyndor,
So they get 12 out of 24 on Gwyndor.
Okay. I'm surprised.
4 for output, 4 for special rules, nothing for synergy, 2 for risk, 1 for survivability, and 1 for cost.
Yeah, I suppose their output is boosted by the fact there are 2 heroes and an eagle.
And in the one slot,
Yeah.
So they've got lots of dice they throw compared to a regular eagle and a regular hero on or off an eagle. And they certainly have lots of dice they throw for shooting too.
Yeah.
And again, the 2 for the risk is sort of a halfway house because you sort of want to put them in.
To get the most out of them, you do really need to get them in, otherwise their mount's doing nothing.
I mean,
well, that's why Gwyndor I think is better for that.
Gwyndor, he lets you reroll all fails hit with hit rolls when making shooting attacks.
Yeah, whilst they're on Gwyndor, Hunter's mount, so they can sort of fly around on Gwyndor and shoot a bit. So you get the sort of 2 for synergy there. 2 for risk there.
Yeah.
Because they sort of don't have to get in as much.
Yeah.
But again, 1 for survivability because they've got like a 6-up save.
Their only save is that they're mounted.
But they do sort of. I mean, again, that could feel a little harsh because we could be saying, well, you know, they do come back to life.
Yeah, but I'll be honest. If you've maybe from shooting, you might sort of only kill 1. But if they're in combat, you'll probably just kill the whole thing.
So again, I think it's worth saying that we've sort of bent a little bit of the hard and fast system that we rate things at with these guys because they're really. We had this on the Skaven deep dive as well. It's really hard to kind of pin some of these things down because they're so sort of random. What we can pin down is that their points cost is way too much.
Yes.
They just never justify that points cost.
No.
Their
now,
shooting isn't enough to justify.
If we look at the Welsh Dragon as the mount instead, the Kethin Heart, that's a 14 out of 24, so they go up a touch on Kethin Heart.
Okay.
4 for output again, 3 for special rules, because they don't get the Hunter's Mount one.
Yeah.
1 for synergy because they've got they actually give you a little saying on that, which is that they give out a bigger bubble for leadership if you make them a general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which you could do.
Yeah, you could.
Because they leadership 9. And they get 1 for risk and 4 for survivability and 1 for cost. Survivability rockets up because you've got the dragon.
Yeah.
Because you've got to think that whilst they might still die,
you're not going to lose the points.
You're not going to lose the points unless they kill the dragon. Exactly.
You went almost Welsh there.
Yeah.
You did.
The dragon.
That was actually stop it. We've already apologised. Please don't make.
We've already sold the
That was you.
I didn't even mean to. So they've got a lot of weird issues, a lot of weird interactions.
It's just a weird character.
But look, do you want a 6s on every stat basically, other than attack, gears, and initiative, 3 on initiative, 5 on attack?
Damn blizzard skill. Don't forget the blizzard skill.
Yeah, that one mad. Do you want a weapon skill 6, strength and toughness 6, 5 attack dragon in your hero slot? You do.
Yeah.
Maybe this is worth considering.
Yeah.
I mean, it does skyrocket their points up.
Yeah.
Something fierce.
I don't think the Glade Captain can take a dragon mount.
No, it can't.
No, so he's your only dragon in the hero slot.
So if you want to do forest dragon-tastic,
I mean, you say that, you can only have 2.
you can
fair enough,
have a
that's
Lord
points.
Forest Dragon and a Hero Forest Dragon.
Yeah.
And then
have to.
if you wanted to use the Triple Crown Monsters
Yeah,
Compendium in
you
your
could
games,
Storm
you
a Dragon.
do some
Storm a Dragon.
Storm a
Magic Dragon.
in your rare slot.
Yeah,
See, so
okay.
you
You can have 3.
3 if you like the idea of woody dragons, and you might want to do that. But I've still got cost prohibitive as my last point.
Yeah, it really is. Like, I think these guys would. I don't think their cost, if you sort of took off the cost of, I keep going to call him Gar here, Gwyndor, if you took off the cost of the Eagle,
Gwendolyn's free. Oh, you mean
but it's clearly already in their points cost. If you took off the cost for what that would be, I don't think they're too many points.
225.
What is that already minus in the 50 for an Eagle? 50-ish for an
They're
Eagle.
275 base, mate.
Yeah, 100 and a bit points for 2 sisters that you have to kill both of. If they were on foot, they would be the most broken hero choice in the game.
If they were on foot, but they're not. That's
that's what I'm saying. If you could take them on foot, they'd be broken, but you have to take them on a mount, which is too expensive.
So what you want to do is hope that you put them on a dragon.
The dragon gets killed.
They kill the dragon, but one of the sisters survives.
That's going to be the only time you ever want the dragon to die.
You could have both the sisters.
She legs it
and
to
they
a
just
unit, jumps in there.
Yep.
She legs it somewhere
Second
else.
one then legs it out of a unit. I do think the conjoined thing has a rule though that says if they come off of the maybe
have
I'm
to
making
join
this
the
up,
same
they have to
unit.
join the same unit
I
actually.
think so, yeah.
Firing that arrow
They can join other units, but if one of the twins joins a unit, the other one must do.
Okay, there you go.
So
I mean, it still makes them quite good because you put them like opposite ends of a unit.
yes, you do.
to keep them as far apart as possible. But it's so unlikely to happen.
It's just an odd combination of everything
nothing,
going on.
realistically, nothing's going to kill the dragon and not just kill the sisters.
And again, the other problem with the dragon is to go back to Comedy of Errors. They've both got bows, magical bows that do lots of shots or damage.
A dragon
The
is someone to
dragon's
be in combat.
dragon. So once he's blown his
The
breath
dragon-
weapon,
He's got a decent breath though. I think strength 2
Strength
no arm save.
2 -3 to your
-3.
armor.
So
Once if you suffer a hit, you gain stupidity for the rest of the game.
That's okay.
But the dragon, it actually has the impetuous rule. It wants to charge. You have to try to stop it from charging.
Yeah.
So it's the same as a knight
Knight
errant from Batonia.
I'm going to be honest, guys. We have waxed.
We've gone on.
on these for some minutes,
yeah.
and ultimately, what we're going to tell you is they're too
Don't
many
take
points. Don't take them.
Yeah.
I really want to take them. You might see me take them on the channel at some point.
You do have them.
I do, but that's not a good choice.
No.
So finally, we're going to move on to the last hero, which is Dryarcher, who is competing for the rating of worst hero in the game, missing out by a point on 10 out of 24. Sorry, worst hero in the book, not in the game.
The book, we have got the worst one of the game so far.
Although I think Araloth is supposed to be the worst one we've reviewed so far.
Hang on. Give that to the Beastman.
Oh no, Ungo 4-horn.
Give that to Ungrel 4-horn.
Did he get 9?
He got 8.
8. Okay, he's really rubbish. So we're going to finish up with Dryarcher, who has a competitive rating of 10 out of 24. So we get there with 1 for output, 3 for special rules, 2 for synergy, 1 for risk, 2 for survivability, and 1 for cost. I'm afraid we're finishing on an idea, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Forest Spirit isn't great. Cost is mental. Output is not great. That's what I've got on my cheat sheet.
There's a lot of negatives.
So she's weapon skill 7, which is okay. She's initiative 7. She's got 4 attacks. If she loses any wounds, or she loses one of her,
No, she's 3.
yeah. If she loses a wound, she gains plus 2
Plus 2
attacks.
attacks.
So she could get up to plus
4
4
attacks.
She
So
could get
8 attacks.
8 attacks.
But if she regains any of those wounds, she would then lose the bonus attacks for each
And
wound.
she's only strength 4.
4.
I mean, 8 attacks is still good, but
It is.
she's got that like once and then she's dead
Yeah.
because she's.
Yeah.
She's level 2 on Law of Shadow, so you're getting shadow in there if you want if you want to get some shadow in your army. We're having to pay the triple crown comp for it, maybe.
Yeah, but you just take a level 2, who's not as many points as she is.
I think that the key thing with her is the only reason to take her really. There's 2. 1, you're building an all forest spirit army because you're a fun person and you like to play that sort of army list. And number 2, and this is more serious from me in a competitive sense, is because you want to try and put D3 forest spirits secreted inwards.
Yeah.
And so you're going to do that with tree men / tree men ancients.
Yeah.
/ Dirthus.
Yeah.
Can you do it to Durtham?
He's forest spirit.
Yeah, it's not a forest spirit. You could do it with the Ryan, couldn't you? I think you need a forest spirit.
No, he's not. He's not forest
Oh, what a
shame.
His dogs are forest spirits though. But
Kethin Hard's a forest spirit.
The dragons are forest spirits. But if you put a glade lord on a forest dragon, can it be used like that?
have a look.
It
Read
just
it
says
out.
Oh, that's amazing.
when you deploy Holy Composer model of forest spirit.
Boo!
So you heard it here first,
Oh, well.
folks. It's back
Do it
to
with Tree Men, Death
Tree
Thieves and Tree Men
Death Thieves
Ancients.
and Tree Men Ancients. But yeah, so that's all right. And I think if you really want to try to do competitive forest spirits or have forest spirits in your army, she probably is worth including even with this poor rating.
Yeah, potentially.
Because she does give you an angle with them that
Although I would say, I then think you need to include the Acorn of the Ages, which we'll get onto
yes, 100%.
in a bit. Otherwise, they know where all your
Which
tree
causes
spirits
you
are gonna
other
be.
problems, which is that the tree spirit stuff can't take magic items.
Yeah.
So then you've got to take an elf to get that in,
Yeah.
and that's another pain. So, yeah, not great, I'm afraid. Sorry about that. But we've had fun along the way.
We have.
The
The Welsh Dragon was a highlight for me.
and on that bombshell, we're gonna have a move forward now, and we're gonna take a look at the army's unique equipment, which is a few bits.
Mm-hmm.
There's magic items and the laws of magic. Right, well, we've finished our analysis of all of the Wood Elf units, but as we always say on this channel, amazing units alone don't make for competitive armies. And to get the full picture of how to play competitively with Wood Elves, we need to take a look at their unique equipment, their magic items, and their unique laws of magic. And they have two. So we're going to start this section by analysing the unique mundane equipment, and then we'll do their magic items as well. And then we'll move on in a section just after that to take a look at the laws of both high and dark magic. So I'm going to start with the mundane equipment, I guess. Now, there's quite a few for the Wood Elves. I think there's 3 or 4, or 3 pieces I've got written.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're going to start with the Azrai Longbow, which we've kind of
Alluded
talked
to.
about quite a bit because it comes up a lot. But so all of the Wood Elves in the book have them. They are a longbow, so they're 30-inch range.
All of the Wood Elves that shoot.
Yes.
They have a bow.
Sorry.
And pretty much all their characters can either take one or they have one.
Yes, yeah. All of the... they're 30-inch range, like a regular longbow. They're strength 3 like a regular longbow. They may volley fire like a regular longbow. Unlike a regular longbow, they have the armour-piercing special rule.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's a spicy little addition.
Yeah.
I think it takes them from... Like, you don't take longbows with high elves, do you? You don't see people take Empire Huntsmen with longbows. You see Wood Elf with longbow.
I mean, it's
Yeah, but there is like...
they can't take anything else.
There's really another option.
I don't know. I think they're much better.
I agree, but I think the reason you see Wood Elves with longbows is because, or with Azrai bows, is because otherwise you just see 625 points for Eternal Guard at 2,500 points.
Or Dryads.
Yeah.
You just see 625 points for Eternal Guard.
But you could see that if it wasn't for the fact that they're armor-piercing.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same camp as James. I think armor piercing does help them out a lot. I think it does give them a lot of to free up arms, 2-up arm saves like Bretonians. It brings them down to a 3-up.
Oh yeah, Bretonians hate armor piercing.
Yeah, no, it's worth saying that you are going to magic arrow them, which we talked about earlier.
Yes, you are.
I suppose, but I've got here. I don't know why you wouldn't magic arrow them, but if you chose not to, don't forget that this gives you armor piercing too. That's it really. They're a longbow, you can put magic arrows on them, they're armor piercing.
Yeah.
Everyone is a winner. So next up we have the Blackbriar Javelins. So these are the shooting weapons used exclusively by the Sisters of the Thorn units. These have a range of 12 inches, and they are the strength of the user, have armor piercing, and are poisoned attacks. So again, we covered this when we talked about Sisters.
Yeah,
we were just sort of doing our usual due diligence.
Solid.
We'll break this one down. So the chances are you haven't taken Sisters in your army to add these shots.
No.
But they are actually very good, particularly as the unit possesses ballistic skill 5 and are fast cavalry.
Yeah.
The poison is great, and at a range of 12, that's actually pretty solid. If
Poison is really good.
If you were to compare it to kind of throwing weapons, which I suppose they're most similar to in Warhammer, they've got a good range, and they're poisonous, and the guys are BS5 and they're fast cavalry. It's pretty cool.
It gives them a threat range of 30 inches.
Yeah.
The only sort of, whilst it can be a strength like we talked about earlier with the use of Wissons, the only weakness as I see is that strength of user element. Because if I sort of lower their strength with shadow magic, for example, or other spells, then their strength, their shot gets lower too. But
but I mean, you've got realistically. Is anyone going to lower their strength like that
I don't
for
know.
that reason?
Depends how petty they're being, I suppose. But
If they were the last unit on the board, then maybe.
True.
if they were the last unit on the board, I think there's concern for the competitiveness of the game
Yes.
at that point.
Yeah.
But overall, I think they're just a great little bonus that you get from a unit that
Yeah.
you probably want to include because they're very good as well. That takes us to our final one, which is another one we've already discussed, but we'll just tidy everything up and put it in a nice package, which is the Azrai Spear. So again, same as a conventional spear. So that's a fighting extra ranks if you're on foot, and it's +1 strength. Sorry, if you're mounted and you're charging. I couldn't get the words out then. But unlike a regular spear, it has the armor piercing special rule.
Yeah.
Lots of armor piercing in the Wood
Yeah,
Elf
they
book.
love armor piercing. I'm just going to clarify. You only get the fighting extra ranks if you're on foot. If you were charged.
No, you get it if you were charged or if it's an ongoing combat.
Yeah. Okay. So if it's not the turn in which you
If you don't do the charging,
Yeah.
So, that's it really.
But yeah, they do love a bit of armor piercing, the Wood Elves.
So I've got here, as Wood Elves are generally quite low to medium strength, that extra bit of armour save modification is really good. They're the best mundane spears in Warhammer.
Yeah.
You don't see spears. People avoid spears. That's what I've literally got written here. But
But you see Eternal Guard.
I always like a spear. I think I like spears.
oh come on, mate! Like you take skeletons, you take sword and board.
I mean, the spears are free and you still take Sword and Board.
Yeah, you really do.
I don't.
Do you see Empire Spearmen?
No, because they're rubbish.
I'm gonna pipe down now. I gave my pin to my friends and I just got shot down.
You should have said you
It's
could
the wrong
pipe down.
opinion.
That would have been better. Would have been like a sort of
I'm,
spear
I'm,
joke.
not, I'm not sad. I'm not sad with the ones as you are. With this one.
But yeah, I mean that armor piercing. If every
Yes.
spear had that, I'd think spears had become really popular. So you'll have to see it. They're just really good. I think they're great. So let's dive in now. He's already on the page. The heirlooms of Ethelred. That's my
What was
best
that?
sort of excited voice about them.
Was he excited?
The heirlooms of Ethelred.
Alright, Saruman.
That's not an insult. Saren's cool. Other fictional wizards are available.
Not as cool.
Now we've got 10 heirlooms of Athel-Loren, or magic items, if you like, the Wood Elf specific ones to go through with you guys. Now I'd love to sit here and say that all of them are amazing and you see them very regularly,
3.
but they do not.
2.
Still, there are some real gems to dissect, so let's get stuck straight in.
Yes.
And the first one we're going to look at is the Spirit Sword. Now, this one is a magic weapon that clocks in at a gigantic 85 points. Now, armor saves may not be taken against attacks from the Spirit Sword, and any character, champion, or monster which suffers an unsaved wound from it must immediately roll 2d6 and add their leadership. The bearer of the sword then does the same, so he rolls 2d6 and adds their leadership. If the bearer's total is higher, then for every point it's higher, the wounded model suffers an additional wound with no armor saves allowed. If the totals are equal or the wounded model's total is higher, nothing happens.
I mean, it's
Just a
Rune
lot
Fang
going on.
level of points for
But not Rune Fang.
not Rune Fang level of goodness.
No.
I mean, it's quite clearly, I think, meant to be combined with the other Trickster's Shard for those extra 15 points.
Yeah, probably.
That's all your points and not a lot of combat potential.
So
Not really.
I think there's stuff you can do to make this work. You could take Law of Death and try and get the -3 leadership. Is it unmodified? Sorry, I should check that first.
respective leadership values.
No, so it's not unmodified, so
You've
got
got
no
to wound them
leadership.
first. You're only strength 4.
Well, that is also what I have on the cheat sheet. On paper it seems decent. The bearer will be almost certainly leadership 10.
Yeah.
But if you factor in the lack of saving throws on the bearer, thanks to his immense price tag, and the abundance of leadership 9 and 10 in the meta, it's probably a big ask, this one. Plus, you've also then got to factor in the abundance of high armor save and ward save.
Well, it ignores
enemies.
armour.
It does, yeah, sorry. So
But ward save, yes.
high ward save volumes, and the fact you're only strength 4. You know, maybe with magical support, but it is a no from me.
Bit of Savage Beast. Yeah.
But then with Savage Beast, you're like,
I'll probably just kill him anyway.
I'm strength 7 with 7 attacks, so I'm probably just going to kill you anyway.
Especially if you've got other Trickster Shard.
Yeah, I'm just
You're
mumbling
going to
away.
ignore most of your armour
Yeah.
anyway. If you're really worried about ignoring armour, save 35 points and take the Sword of No Armour saves.
Yeah, which is also not a good choice on the strength 4 character.
No.
So, just leave it at home.
Yeah.
Just forget about it.
I want it to be good.
Scabbard it up. It's
I also
cool.
want the other one to be good, which I think you're going to talk about next.
So the second magic item, magic weapon we're going to discuss is Daith's Reaper. Now this one comes in at 50 points, and the bearer rerolls all to hit and to wound rolls with this weapon, and enemies must reroll successful armor save. Now I've got here, I don't mind this one as much. Its biggest challenge is that generally you're going to be unlikely to field a Wood Elf combat character in a competitive army. There's the words.
You got the words out in the
I
end.
did, yeah. So you are unlikely to actually take a Glade Lord. Because
You can fit it on a Grey Captain. It's only 50
you can,
points.
however, I think the lack of OTS,
Yeah.
other
Other
Trickster's
Trickster's
Shard, the lack of a ward. So I've got here, if you put it on a Lord, you can get other Trickster's Shard, a 5-up ward, and Enchanted Shield.
It's not bad.
Pop it on a horse. He's got a
Yeah.
3-up armor save. He's got a 5-up ward save. You reroll your
Yeah.
armors. You reroll your wards.
You roll
I
all
reroll
these
my
hits and
hits.
wounds.
I reroll my wounds.
Yeah,
That's not bad. So on a mountain
Not bad.
character, it could be decent, but it really is just okay, unfortunately, to be honest, because
Yeah.
it doesn't massively fit in with the Wood Elf, with the rest of the Wood Elf army and their
No, not
style.
Really.
I suppose that character on an Elven Steed could go in a unit of something like Wild Riders,
Yeah.
but do they need more punch? Maybe not.
Probably not.
So
and, to be honest, they probably need something to help them with like a vampire lord. He might kill a vampire lord.
he's scary, Vampire Lord, wouldn't he?
He would scare him, but I don't know if he'd do it.
I'll tell you what would do it. The Glade Lord, Mounted Glade Lord from the competitive character series.
Yeah.
So I'm going to leave that item there. I'm going to advise you, if you want to find out more about a Glade Lord that will kill a Vampire Lord, then go and watch that video, because he will do it. She will do it. So our final magic weapon is the Bow of Loren. This is an Azarae longbow, which, as we discussed earlier, which is the same as we discussed earlier.
Yeah.
This one's got multiple shots equal to the attacks of the bearer +1. So the caveat here, though, is that it may not be used to fire enchanted arrows. Mixed bag, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can fire like 5 shots off a lord, if you can up the attacks of the lord.
Or a hero.
Or a hero.
From sort of that.
4 shots from the hero.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can get a lot of shots, but not being able to fire enchanted arrows, that's like the jam of this army.
Yeah.
And that's what's competitive.
And it's still only strength 3 as well.
Yeah,
They're
only
not-
strength 3.
That's because they can't. The enchanted
Yeah.
arrows is what makes that strength 3 much less important.
Obviously, you're always going to be suffering the multi-shots. Which, yeah, their characters are
BS7?
sort of 7.
6 for a captain.
Yeah. So you're probably still going to be hitting on a decent number, but...
This one I think is designed for a Waystalker.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they don't really have the attacks to make it that good.
No, that's
they
why,
two, I
that's
think.
why they've only got 1.
Do they
Oh,
get?
they've
Do
only
they
got
get
one
to
attack.
keep their
Yes.
Waystalk, their
Yes,
Waywatcher
because it
things?
counts as an Azarae longbow, and
And it's not a magic arrow. That,
and the Waystalker's arrows, the Hawk-eyed Archer.
Okay. Before it makes an attack. Okay.
It's just when it makes a shoot attack, so it does work. Sorry, guys, we're just double checking ourselves for
that's
sureness.
effectively
I mean-
the Waystalker, which is the Waywatcher character,
Is it
special
worth
that
it
allows
always?
him to sniper
Is
shot.
it worth it? Waystalks only have 1 attack.
Yeah, well, it gives you 2 shots instead of 1. You're paying like 75
Yeah.
points for that model, so you might as well pay the 20 points and have 2 shots, or 4 shots if you go multi-shot.
Can he shoot magic arrows though?
Waystalkers, no.
Oh, okay. That's a
No,
shame.
He's
Otherwise,
got the
he'd just
Waywatcher arrows.
Yeah, I was going to. Oh, so why would you not just shoot 2 shots with the Waywatcher arrows?
We used to then shoot 4 shots.
No, you wouldn't.
Yeah, you would.
No, you wouldn't. His attacks is still 1.
Yeah, you swap out the. Well, I don't know.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
we'll look at that. We'll look at
It's
ourselves.
so,
Yeah.
it's so you shoot 2 shots with an armor save arrow,
Yeah.
which is good, and it
Yeah.
can snipe, so you can snipe out like enemy battle standard bearers.
Yeah, potentially.
But look, I mean, I don't think we're particularly enamoured by that either.
No.
We're just saying
No.
that's the best place for it if you're gonna if you want to use it. But you can see Scott's face.
Yeah, I
disagree.
disagree. I think the best place for it is a Glade Captain, to be honest.
I think the best place for it is not on your army list.
Well, yeah.
But
as well, yeah.
Fair.
it's cool though. There's a lovely model. for it
Yeah,
as well.
there is. Yeah.
So we're going to move on to magic armor. Perhaps unsurprisingly, this is not a very big section for Wolves. So we've just got the one, and it's the Helm of the Hunt. Now, the helm improves its bearer's armor save by 1, and confers devastating charge and +1 weapon skill to the bearer on the turn in which they make a charge.
Turns him into a mini Wild Rider at that point then.
It's 20 points.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
In fact, going back to that competitive character, to keep plugging the other video I did.
Yeah.
Competitive character series, Glade Lord. We use this. It's really
Yes. It is good. It is good on a Glade Lord on a horse or Elwood steed.
I just come back to the same question whenever I look at Wood Elf combat characters, which is,
Why am I not taking a wizard?
is it worth it? And I think the bigger the game, the more it becomes worth
Oh
it.
yeah.
But and actually, weirdly, like in a really small game, it might be worth it too, because you can get like a Glade Captain with this and a Azarae spear on a horse who's going to punch quite hard.
Maybe.
But yeah, I think if you're going to do a combat character, I'd definitely consider the Helm of the Hunt.
Yeah.
It's really cool. It gives you quite a lot for 20 points, I would
Yeah.
say.
+1 armor save, an extra attack on the charge.
That +1 weapon skill is massive,
Yeah.
because I mean, again, we're going back to that Vampire
Makes the
Lord
captain
thing.
weapon skill 7.
It makes
I-
a Lord,
I
it
know
makes a Glade Lord weapon skill 8.
Only on that turn they charge though.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah,
why
but that's the turn they kill whatever they charge.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
true.
why you do it with the other tricksters. And I'm not going to spoil that other video. Watch the other video. It's good. It's good stuff. So I think it's time we sweep into enchanted items, gentlemen.
That was just the single piece of magic armor.
That's
then.
it. So with the Wood Elf book, is positively full of enchanted items.
Yeah.
And there's 3 to choose from in this section. And the first up is the rather large Acorn of the Ages. So this item is a whopping 100 points. And rather than paraphrasing, I'm going to ask Max if he'll just read it out.
Okay, so the Acorn of the Ages is 1 use only at the start of the game. After the battlefield has been set up, but before deployment begins, you can place D3 Citadel Woods on the battlefield. So the Woods Games Workshop used to make. Forest can be placed anywhere at least 1 inch away from another terrain feature and the edge of the battlefield. Once all the forests have been placed, scatter each 2d6 inches. If this scatter causes the forest to end up within 1 inch or on top of other terrain, or within 1 inch of the battlefield edge, reduce or increase the scatter by the smallest amount necessary to avoid the obstruction. When this has been done, when this has been done, declare which type of forest you want these to be. Choose from the types of mysterious forest tables. All forests created by the Acorn must be of the same type.
Venom thickets.
So in my mind, this
Or
is,
stupidity forests.
in my mind, this is really fun, like really cool. I like the idea of him like
It's
sort of
fluffy.
blowing on it and sort of like chucking it
Yeah,
out
it's
onto
just
the
like the
ground or
sort of
whatever, and it's
seeds
sort
of the acorn, isn't it?
Yeah,
That
sort of
grow
like
the
grow out.
the
That's
woods.
really cool. But I'm going to try and be analytical for a minute because I've got things that I think we really need to cover. So you see this semi-regularly in competitive play.
Yeah, you do see it.
With the additional forests obviously tying in with the Forest Stalker special rule that the Wood Elves themselves have.
Yep.
And the army, has obvious synergy with other magic items in this item.
Yes.
So that's the good things why you see people take it. So on to the bad. It's D3 woods, so it's random.
Yep.
You can pay 100
yeah.
points, get a wood. You've been absolutely had, mate. So it's a big risk.
Yeah.
And add on to the fact that it's the entire magic items allowance for a toughness 3 in his pyjamas character. Because they're either a wizard with no save or they're a glade lord with, like, at best a 4-up save.
Yeah.
So,
Armor, shield on a horse.
on a horse.
Yeah.
I just think it's too much risk.
Yeah. 53 plus 1 maybe, but even then 100 points is a lot. And I think to make it
The woods
worth
have got to do something.
to make it worth 100 points, you have to combine it with that other magic items, which means you're spending even more points making this one trick, this one sort of part of your list work.
And the next item is going to be where that starts.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that, and I'm going to talk about these two now interchangeably as we go forward.
Yeah.
So we're going to move on to the second enchanted item, which is the Moonstone of the Hidden Ways. We're going to keep referring back to the Acorn of the Ages as well. So this one is 40 points. So again, I'm going to ask Max to read it out so that we get the word absolutely spot on. And my paraphrasing doesn't mess it up.
So Moonstone of Hidden Ways. If the bearer's unit is wholly within a forest at the end of your movement phase and is not in close combat, it can forest walk. If it does so, remove it from the battlefield and immediately replace it wholly within any forest on the battlefield in the same formation, but facing any direction. A forest walking unit cannot be placed within 1 inch of an enemy unit or impassable terrain. A unit that forest walks counts as having marched in the movement phase.
Okay, so I think immediately this feels really strong. It feels competitive immediately. You read it and you think, oh, I can like pick something up and move it around the table. Movement stuff, competitive. Now, you can spend a lot of time attempting to close my list down.
Yeah.
You get nice and close, you're ready there, and then I'm sort of I'm departing these wooded surroundings for another one that's out of your line of sight. And I'm preserving my points. So those are the things that seem awesome, that jump out straight away.
Yeah.
There are some massive drawbacks with this item though. Firstly, you count as marching.
You do.
Can't shoot.
So you can't shoot. So now, on a shooting unit, this becomes a last resort, not a first choice.
Yeah.
Because you sacrifice your shooting to do it. Now, it's still potentially worth it if that unit's going to die instead.
But it's a lot of points to spend on a maybe, not a.
On a
this
maybe.
is actually very, very competitive.
On a
which it would be
maybe
if it was a
and a
movement
once. And then there's the opportunity cost of what you didn't spend on that character that took it.
Yeah.
Because you spent 40 points on this.
Mm.
Now then you've got to consider that beyond getting you out of a jam, there's a bigger issue, if you like, with getting you out of the jam, which there's got to be another wood on the table for you to do it.
That no one else is in.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm about to come on to. So
Yeah.
you get on to, it's alright to say, well, I've got my free wood, I definitely can do the walking out, but if there's nowhere to walk into, I'm stuck. And the problem is that it's not within an inch of an enemy unit. Now, I've watched lots of people, but my brother he's particularly good at this. He's got dark elves. I don't like fighting wood elves, and he'll just park like
Shards.
some dark shards in a wood, just in the middle of it, and it'll run like a couple of our dark riders into the middle of a wood or something, and all of a sudden,
You can't.
there's
you
no
can't
forest walking for you.
Walk into another forest, no.
Nope, that's a big deal. So I'm just going to check back on my cheat sheet because I've stopped looking at it, which was always a big issue. So if you can't walk because the wood situation on the table, either there isn't one or because it's blocked, well, that's 40 points you've blown.
Yeah. I mean, look, it doesn't say you can't come back out of the forest you were in, but why did you not just reform? Because
Well,
it could let you turn around, but why would you not just reform?
Well, that's it. That's all you've done.
Yeah.
I mean, and ultimately, so then what you need to say is, well, I want to get the most out of this item. If I'm going to get the most out of this item, I better take the Acorn of Ages.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'll take that. Now I better hope I don't roll a 1, because just one other wood is quite easy to manage. I'll have to hope, if that's the case, that when I get to my table, there's maybe 1 or 2 other woods on there already.
Yeah.
But now I'm 140 points in, and I'm basically the full magic item allowance of a Lord and a Hero.
Yeah, and
I'm not quite, but
you're
I'm basically
still not guaranteed that you're going to have good options to use that item.
No. Concerned. That's it. I'm just concerned that I've spent the points on this.
Look, maybe, I don't think I've ever seen anyone do it. Maybe if you combine the Acorn, the Moonstone, and Riker with some Tree Spirits.
That's a lot to invest. That's a lot of points invested in this.
It is a lot, but then you'd have, if they did go into that forest, you'd have Tree Spirits in there to sort of clear the forest out, clear the forest for your unit.
There's no guarantee that Tree Spirits are going to be in that forest anyway.
No, because it's random, the one they
Oh, is
come
it? I
up
thought you
from.
picked...
No, you pick the forest, but it's random whether they actually turn up or not.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so, yeah.
You have to roll a dice at every beginning of every turn.
Yeah.
It's 3+ they turn up.
So it's
Oh,
ambushes
it's rubbish.
basically, but from a wood.
Yeah, that's rubbish.
So this is the problem. It does have a lot of potential competitively, and it can twist a whole game for you, the Moonstone and the Acorn. But it's a lot of points. You take a big risk, and I think if you're trying to build consistently week in week out for a GT type environment or for really competitive gaming,
Don't take them.
just leave them.
Yeah.
So we're going to look at our final enchanted item now, and something that's going to put a smile right back on my face. 30 points of winning, as far as I'm concerned, and it's the Howl of Doom Arrow.
Yeah.
Or as I like to call it, the Howl of Boom, because it's great. So it's 1 use only, and can only be used by a model that has an Azrai longbow. On the turn that you use this item, the bow stats are switched to having a 30-inch range, a strength of 4, armor piercing is retained, and you have 3d6 shots instead of 1. So you're averaging about 10 shots. Ballistic skills 6+ in reality.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to put this on a wizard.
And a strength of 4 with armor piercing, so that's -2 to the saving throw as well. It's just outstanding.
Really like it. I really like it.
I,
You're basically another unit of Glade Guard
On your own.
for a turn.
well, you're better because you're strength 4.
Well, yeah.
You need a strength 4 Glade
Yeah.
Guard. And it's got so much stuff it synergises well with.
Mm-hmm.
Law of Death, Law of Shadow,
Yeah.
Law of Metal, +1 to hit.
Yeah.
Law of Fire, Flaming Sword of Ruin.
+1 to wound, yeah.
Yeah, really good. It just fits so well into every list. It writes
High magic,
itself
increase
in.
the ballistic skill.
Yeah, High Magic's another great one. Dark Magic. Is it good stuff for Dark Magic?
No, it drops your strength. I don't think Word of Pain drops toughness.
No, it doesn't. That's a fair point.
Yeah.
Dark Magic with Shroud of Despair, though. Just
Yeah.
obliterate like a
Like a
small
chaff
thing,
unit,
chaffy
like some
thing
5
with that
dogs
one dude on his own.
Yeah.
Cause the other units to lose leadership.
Yeah.
It's honestly, the combinations you can create in your brain with this item are incredible.
Yeah, it's a 1+ on a BSB for me.
Yeah, I always put it on the Buzz, it's really good there.
Yeah.
But it's good on any Glade Captain.
Yeah, I just, to be honest, I just don't think you'd have 2 Glade Captains, which is why I said
No,
put it on your
you
BSB.
wouldn't.
But if you do, whichever one, doesn't really matter. Probably put it in.
Anything to add, Mr. Hurley?
No, whenever you use this, it's like, I just hope I survive this attack.
Hope you rise a bit rubbish on the 3d6.
Yeah, it's the armor piercing, the amount of shots of strength. With strength of armor piercing, so you're -2. And
It's literally a Bretonian's worst nightmare.
yeah, strength. And my armoured units just looking like, please don't do anything big
not
here.
nice.
So yeah, I always see this whenever I play Wood Elf Army. If you don't take it, it's odd that you don't take it.
Yeah.
It doesn't combine with any of the enchanted arrows.
No, it
So
doesn't. No, this in itself is an enchanted arrow.
It is,
Yeah.
effectively is, yeah.
Yeah.
So if you've got, but you can use it if you purchase an enchanted arrow.
Yes,
so you
yeah.
could purchase, say, True Flight arrows for your Glade Captain.
Yeah.
And also purchase the Howl of Doom arrow, and then the turn you use the Howl of Doom, don't get the benefit of the True Flight. You just get 3d6 strength 4 shots.
I think because it's one use as well, it's strong, but not broken.
Oh,
no,
yeah.
you use it every turn. That'd be
Dear Lord.
insane.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think
Yeah.
there's some inbuilt balance and there's some
Yeah.
skill involved in the Wood Elf as well.
In knowing
because
when.
They've got to know exactly when and
Mm.
exactly the right sort of target. And like you say, there's those games, we've all had it, where you throw like 1-1-2 and you're like, oh, no.
Yeah.
But it's still a great item.
But there's those games when you throw like 5-5-6 and you're like, oh my.
For 30 points, is great.
Yeah, it really
It's
is.
great.
Yeah.
Take it. Now, from the dizzying heights of a soaring Hail of Doom arrow, ladies and gentlemen, to the only arcane item in the Wood Elf book, which is the Kalangor's staff.
Kalangor stave.
Kalangor.
Now this one is 20 points, and again I'm going to let Max regale you with its properties.
Right, so beginning, Kalangor stave, the bearer generates one less spell than is normally allowed for his wizard level. So we're starting off strong here, guys. We're starting off strong. We're going to
Not
lose.
even an additional, it's not even like a bound spell.
No,
it's an
you,
additional spell.
you generate one less spell, but you get to know the tree singing spell, as detailed below.
Well, I'm sure it'll be a really good spell then if you're losing one of your spells to get it. I'm sure, and you're paying 20 points to lose one of your spells. It must be phenomenal.
I enjoy your naive hopefulness, my
Right,
friend.
sort of. Oh, it's top tier spell. Must be.
So, tree singing, Castle Nate. We're starting off.
That's okay.
We're starting
Yeah,
strong.
cheap.
It's an augment spell, so you don't need line of sight.
Okay, yeah.
It's 18-inch range. You target a single forest within 18 inches of the caster.
Oh dear, here we
If
go.
there are no units within the forest, it immediately moves up to d6 plus 1 inches in a direction of your choice. A forest cannot move to within 1 inch of units or other terrain features. There's more. If there's at least one unit, friendly or enemy, within the forest, then the tree does not move. Instead, choose a single enemy unit at least partially within the forest. That unit immediately suffers 2d6 strength 4 hits. The wizard can choose to have this spell target all forests within 12 inches. If he does so, the casting value is increased to 16 plus.
So you drop range but make it a bubble for double the cost.
The bubble thing is the only reason why it says, I'm sure, that if there's a friendly unit in there, the wood doesn't move. Because I understand who would go. So it does literally nothing if I cast it on this wood. Yes. Give us a power dice. I don't know who is doing that.
It's awful.
So what do I have here?
What do you have there?
It's another item that synergises well with the Moonstone of Hidden Ways and the Acorn of the Ages. Which it does.
Yeah.
So you're
because-
putting up at 160 points into this
Because
combination.
it does allow you to kind of push the forest to maybe more favourable positions,
Yeah.
or because you've got the Cali staff,
Kalangor.
you can sort of hit those units inside the wood, and because it's an augment, you don't need
Yeah.
line of sight. I'm digging here, boys. I'm digging.
You
for
are
the positive.
really are.
You're digging.
really reaching.
Clawing for that.
Yeah.
You're not even digging with a shovel. You dig with a shovel stick.
Yeah, I'm a wood elf. But what I'm saying is, if you've got that enemy unit in the wood
Yeah.
and you want them out, it might be something that deters them from spending time in that wooded environment. But
maybe.
like I've really tried. I can't even keep the enthusiasm.
Just take
up for it.
Awakening of the Wood.
It's-
Take a better law.
Take any of the signature spells from High Dark
It's-
Magic that blast you.
yeah.
There's two of them.
It's the
Yeah.
beginning of the item. You lose a spell.
Yeah, that
For
is
this spell.
fantastically bad.
You don't need to read the spell. You lose
Oh,
a spell.
I lose a spell? No, I'm not paying 20
It's-
points to lose a spell.
It's also it's also in a really competitive slot. You've got lots of really great generic
Scrolls.
arcane items. You know, channeling staff, dispel scroll,
Forbidden Rod.
forbidden rod, scroll of shielding. Scroll of
Yeah.
shielding's great for wood elves because they
Yeah.
do not like magic missiles.
They do not.
Power stone, book
Yeah.
of Asher,
Yeah.
staff of sorcery. I mean, I can go on. Because there's so many that. Are good for
And
wood
you
elves.
don't get much access to the slot because only wizards can take it.
Yeah.
So you're probably only going to get two, maybe three. At a is that what you have written down?
No, I just know your mannerisms because I think that we've probably talked about it before,
Yeah.
but I think you're right. I've just got I'd leaf it, but I did use that pun
Oh,
earlier,
right.
so I feel
You're going to leaf that one.
I just feel a bit sad. for
It's
myself.
sad that this is the only remnant of the
Old
old high elf,
singing.
the old high elf lore, like lore of them they
Wood
used to
elf,
have.
I mean.
Yeah, wood elf.
Laura
lore.
Raffle Lauren.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is sad. This is all that's left, and it's disappointing.
Yeah, well, talking of disappointments, nearly there as we move on to the 2 magic banners in this army book.
And they're whoppers.
And I can say
Oh,
to
they
you,
are so disappointing.
I can say to you, ladies and gentlemen, ignore my friends to my sides. I will not have them say that we left the best till last. Because we didn't. I'm sorry, even I can't blag this one out. We've got the banner of the Eternal Queen first. So it's our second 100-point item because, one wasn't enough.
You only usually have an 85-point item as well.
Yeah, there's
so many expensive
pricey
items
things in here. This one gives the bearer. This one gives the bearer magic resistance 3, and once per game, all models in the same unit with them gain unbreakable. Now, look,
Unbreakable's a good
if
roll.
I change this next sentence to until the start of the next turn, you guys are like, that's really good. That's
Yeah.
potentially game winning.
I've just read
Drop
that.
that on the late game.
I've just read the line.
Humongous.
I've just read the line
Except
here.
the part where it says, or until the bearer is removed from play, whichever comes first. He's a toughness 3 elf, because he's 100 points,
with like no save.
you can't put on anything.
No.
He's got a 5-up save, man. So now you're going, well, I've got to keep this guy alive, spend 100 points on him. Better take Laura alive. Now we're into prescription build time.
Yeah.
And realistically, do I just take the stub at the Crown of Command again?
You're building.
Is that better?
You're starting to build your list around this 100-point banner for not even one turn, for
And
one phase.
I think another big glaring problem with this guy, with this whole banner in general as well, with this guy, but with this banner, is that like, what's it good on? Well, it's the sort of banner I want to put on a big block that holds lots of points up for me, which is not really what competitive Wood Elf armies
No,
do
and
very
if
well.
they do it with Eternal Guard, who are already stubborn
stubborn.
at leadership 9 at the very worst. With a reroll, because this guy's got to be a BSB.
If you want to use the only unit I'm seeing them use it on is Wilder Rangers, but even then they're already awful.
They're
You're really
already
trying
dead.
your best with them, aren't you?
They're already dead,
I
Max.
like the models.
You can't be unbreakable if you're already dead.
Yeah, I
That
think-
one dude that makes it a combat will be unbreakable, alright?
Look, as long as that dude's the BSB, who is rocking a 4-up on a horse.
Plus he's the Wilder Rangers, mate. He's on foot.
You might wear
It
a
might,
safe. But look, genuinely, this is a banner that it just doesn't work in this army list.
A lot of the 100-point banners out there aren't particularly well.
No.
If this was in a Warriors of
Most of
Chaos
them are
army
shocking.
list, I'd possibly take it. If this was in a high elf or a dark elf list, I'd think about it as well.
Warriors, maybe.
I-
Because of the Warriors' lower leadership.
Definitely for dark elves, I'd be all over it. What, that time that my witch unit gets flanked? Oh, bumpy bump, baby.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, but to be
but,
honest, you can flank a witch unit and still lose the
We saw which unit get reared and flanked on the weekend, and it won.
But it was by 10 kings.
Yeah, and he did rear, which is a big mistake. You only flank
Because they get more attacks.
Because they get more attacks in the rear. But it doesn't work.
No, it
It's-
really
and
doesn't.
it's not necessarily that it's the wrong points, because it could be 50 points and it probably
And
still would be
yeah.
a lot of value in this army list. So it's not sort of the points per se. It's just not very good.
The points just really are
They're
the
just the
last
icing on
nail.
the cake.
Yeah, they are the last nails in the coffin.
So finally, we have the banner of the Hunter King. Now this one is 75 points and grants the bearer's unit Vanguard. It also allows them to reroll their first charge roll.
First failed charge.
Oh, is it first failed charge?
First failed
Apologies.
charge
So
of the game.
that is better, because if they pass the first one, it might
Yeah.
take them for a second or a third. But it's not bad, right? But again, realistically, it's in the wrong army book,
100%.
because you, like, what units do you want this on? Well, Wild Riders, who already
have Vanguard.
So I'm paying 75 points to reroll one charge. Why wouldn't I pay 55 points to take the Ranger standard from the main rulebook and reroll all my charges?
That's 55.
That's what I said. What
You
wouldn't
said
I pay?
50.
55.
Ah, okay.
Didn't I?
Apologies.
I said
I think you said 55. Max is just having a
I
moment.
can't hear.
having a moment. So yeah,
But yeah,
and again, realistically, I can Vanguard up a block to get it near the enemy quicker. That will die faster.
That's
Then
probably going to take me out of my wood.
I just don't want to do that.
No.
Even with Eternal Guard, that's what I've got written there.
No.
If
But-
you
And Eternal Guard don't want to charge.
Yeah.
They want to get
Get
charged.
charged, yeah.
In a wood.
Yeah. So
a lot of hostility going towards these magic banners
Oh,
right
they're
now.
shocking. They really are.
And again, the reroll in the first charge is a situational buff at best.
Yeah.
And when we talked about, we did in the Magic and the Mundane, I talked about the Rangers, is it Rangers or Rampagers? Rampagers standard, which does a similar thing, 55 points reroll failed charge rolls. I talked a lot about the fact that that type of item has a risk of encouraging bad play, not good play, because
you to make like longer charges.
You know, it's not necessarily that great a shot, but I do have a reroll, so I'll give it a go. Get yourself caught out, lose yourself a game.
Yeah.
So it's good if you can be disciplined and say, well, no, I'll just use it as a backup
when I roll for rubbish.
Yeah, you know, as a backup for when I fail to roll average. But then you'll find that like 9 times out of 10 you don't use the item and you pay those points for it. So it has those problems with it, I think. It's good for fun games, it's good for thematic-y type things. It's not very good in a competitive setting. It just leaves me a bit flat, if I'm honest.
Yeah. Such a shame.
Yeah, it is. So, and that unfortunately is another section of this video that we've concluded with a little bit of a frown rather than a smile. And it's a shame because we're big Wood Elf lovers on this channel.
It's not a bad book. It really is not a bad book.
No, it's just got some bad punctuation.
Yeah.
You know, really. But never fear, the next section will leave all of us with a guaranteed smile on our face, because we are going to move on now to take a look at the 2 Wood Elf specific laws of magic. That's high and dark magic. So let's get to it. Right guys, well let's get stuck into 2 really interesting and dare I say it, competitive laws of magic.
They are.
They certainly are, and that is the law of high and the law of dark magic. Now, these are going to be rated with our magic rating system, or our magic law rating system. There you go, I missed a word out.
Yeah.
And that can be found, just like our unit rating system, on triplecrownwargaming.com under the rating section. Now, again, it will yield a score out of 24, just like the other ratings. But it's rated on the 6 magic criteria this time, and that is the variety of spell types, power and frequency of the lore attribute, average spell range, spell flexibility, average casting value, and finally the quality of the signature spell. Thumbs up, everyone's nodding for me. So that's good. If you're not looking, then everyone's like, yes. So we're going to start with the law of high magic.
Okay.
And the lore attribute for this one is Ancient's Protection. So every time a spell is successfully cast from this law, place a protection counter next to the caster. When the wizard or a model in that unit suffers from an unsaved wound, you may discard a protection counter to ignore the wound. You treat the wound as having been saved, basically. That's really good.
It's worth knowing that it's not a choice. You have to remove.
You do have to do it.
You have to remove a protection counter. So if you have a mook that takes a wound in a unit, you have to remove a protection counter. A goon, if you will. Yes, you have to remove the protection counter to save your mook.
Yeah, I don't know. I know you like it, James. I know Chris Hale likes it, who uses it a lot. He uses high magic a lot with his Wood Elves. I just don't know.
Look, I like the way that Chris Hale uses it on his unicorn wizard.
Yeah, an eagle wizard, I like it on a lot. I think the thing here is that it's really obvious, it's really easy rather to draw straight comparisons and say, well, it's not as good as Shield of Safri, same law, different attribute.
Yeah.
Or it's not as good as Contemplation, same law, different attribute. And yeah, possibly isn't as good as both of them. But it's a pretty good lore attribute. And again, I think it's a build around lore attribute. Where you go, I'll pop it in.
Like you say, I think it's good on a wizard on their own, on like an eagle or even a unicorn, or even a horse if you want to keep the points down. Yes, I think it's good on that sort of wizard. A wizard in a unit, you're probably not going to have them in like a small unit of like 10 Glade Guards. You might.
I mean, it wouldn't be terrible in
that sort of sense. Yeah, it would probably be alright. But in a unit of like 20, 30, well not 20, maybe 30-ish Eternal Guard or something like that.
See, I wouldn't take this with Eternal Guard.
No.
No, I would take Shadow, or I would take one of the other sort of laws of magic that gives me something obviously dirty for synergy with Eternal Guard. Whereas I think this is better in those smaller units.
But even in a unit of Sisters, I don't think it's very good.
I do if I'm taking the little units like 5s and 6s and just popping the character on the end and just moving them around in that really mobile, aggressive fashion. Slightly different shape. Just different shape, I think. It just gives you a different sort of option. I certainly don't think it's a bad lore attribute. That, you know, you're not going, oh well, it's just terrible.
It's not lore of fire.
Well, no, not really. So there are 2 signature spells for the lore of high magic, as you know, people that have seen it before may know, or if you've watched High Elf Deep Dive.
Indeed.
But the first one is Drain Magic. So this is an augment if you cast it on yourself, or a hex if you cast it on enemy units. And it affects other magic spells. So I've said before on the channel lots of times, I think it's the best spell in Warhammer. So what it does is it removes the effects of any magic spells on the units in question. And it's cast on a 7+. It can be boosted to hit all units, friend and foe, within 18 inches as well. I think it's so good.
Yeah, stops remains in play, stops other augments and hexes.
It does, yeah. It stops the hexes more importantly. Like you can't.
You can't stop hexes any other way, can
No.
you? But the thing that's good about the remains in play, like Scott says, is you do have to throw enough dice to meet the minimum casting value to stop a remains in play.
Yes.
Most of them are sort of 12, 13 plus, if not more.
Yeah.
Which means you probably want to throw probably 4 dice.
4, yeah.
This is 2 dice cast. It's a 7.
Yeah.
If you're in a wood, you could start. You know, you just need a
probably
3
one dice
plus.
it, yeah.
Cheeky.
Yeah.
So
And that, you know, effectively, if you're doing it for the remains in play, you've got 2 attempts to do it. You do it with 1 dice with this.
yep.
See if your opponent throws any spell dice at it, and if they do, you go, okay, well I've got the rest of my dice to then just, if I really need to, just dispel the spell.
It's like I say, it can in one stroke it can completely and utterly wipe out your opponent's best magic face.
Yeah.
All that effort they went into put into making your units not as good in combat or in any other phase, all that hard work is immediately removed.
Yep.
Yeah. It's soul crushing, to be honest, at some point.
Yeah, I do think it's better for high elves, because I don't think hex / augment / remains in play magic is as devastating for sort of against wood elves as it can be for high elves.
I
I think magic missiles and direct damages really hurt wood elves.
Yeah, I just think it's different. I just think it's different. Like what it's good on is different.
Okay.
But I see your point.
Against high elves, they might be buffing their units or debuffing your like Phoenix Guard or your
I
White Lions
suppose
in
you're
that
not
big block.
sort of going to have as obviously as many combat blocks. But it's things like if I put like Fire's Protection on my unit, and you're using Hagbane,
Yeah.
it's really good there.
Yeah.
If I put Fire's Protection on, you're going to Wild Rider me. Or something equally of the like. It's that type of thing. I think it's different in its application, but yes, I think in principle you're probably going to find more scenarios where it's better for sort of combat orientated lists, if you like. So the second one is Soul Quench, which is a magic missile which does 2d6 hits or 4d6 hits depending on what value you go for. The hits are made at strength 4 and is cast on a 8 or 16 respectively, depending on the number of hits.
Super solid magic missile.
Really great. Again, if you're in a wood, 1 dice cast if you're feeling big on the little value. If you're out of a wood, it's a 2 dice cast.
Pretty comfortable 2 dice cast.
Yeah, it's a cheeky 1 dice cast still. 50% of the time it goes off every time.
It's one of those, I've got 1 dice left, 2d6 strength 4 for 1 dice, go for it.
And it kind of works nice with the list as well, because it's just adding more to that kind of style that you've got. So it doesn't sort of, it just sort of adds rather than offering you something different. But it's nice, it's very easy to cast. You know you're going to get it as well.
Yes.
I think the real crying shame actually with this Law of Magic is that you can't take it on level 2s and 1s, the hero levels, the spell singers.
Yes.
Which is a massive shame, because the 2 signature spells from this law are really good on low level wizards because they're low cast and they're good utility.
The signature spells from Dark Mage as well, which we'll get onto, are also both pretty good.
Yes, and I think that's a shame that you can't do that. You have to go on the... But then, you know, we are proponents with Wood Elves of multiple wizards anyway, the higher level ones, so all good I think. So we're going to move on now to spell 1 in the law, which is Apotheosis. Now this one offers the restoration of a lost wound on a multi-wound model and can be boosted to restore D3 wounds instead. Now, like a lot of high magic, it's a useful spell that can be really frustrating for an opponent. There's a basement casting value, again 5+ for this one, 10 for the D3.
Super cheap.
However, unlike other high magic using armies, Wood Elves don't really have the volume of amazing targets for this spell.
Not really, no, you're looking at sort of tree men, tree kin, and characters, and that's about it. Maybe an
And
eagle.
dragons.
And dragons.
Yeah.
Maybe an eagle.
It's certainly. I think the thing is as well is that a lot of those are considerations units. You know what?
Yeah.
Am I maybe not an eagle, but I think they're pretty auto. But you know, am I going to include a tree man? My characters are dancing round. If I'm
Yeah.
on this lore, they're probably getting counters on them as well.
Yeah.
Are they really going to take the wounds to really justify it? You know. So, and again, even with things like the tree kin, I've got to have a tree kin that's wounded
Yes.
to be able to give it wounds back. I
Yeah,
can't sort
yeah.
of pop one out of the earth.
No.
So,
So it also grants fear, so handy just if you want to cancel any fear
yeah,
checks you want to take.
I always forget that bit.
That's true. Yeah, I had no idea it even did that.
Yeah,
Because
regardless.
most time I see the use of apotheosis, it's on a frost heart, so it doesn't really matter.
Regardless, yeah.
Stegodon.
Yeah.
Regardless how many lost wounds, if any are recovered, they also gain fear.
Oh, if any are recovered.
If any.
Yeah.
So you can still.
Oh, regardless of
Yeah.
if any. Ah, okay. Right.
So yeah, but it's a cheap way of getting a counter as well.
Yeah, that's true.
So Hand of Glory is next. That's spell number 2. Now this one is a buff which can improve one or all of the following stats by D3. That's weapon skill, ballistic skill, initiative, and movement. So on a 5+ again,
5+
it's one
again,
stat,
yeah.
and on a 10+, it's all four of those stats.
It's the one you're probably going to get the most out with Wood Elves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For ballistic skill.
Swift Shiver is what
Yeah.
I've got
Yeah.
written here.
Big unit of Swift Shiver shafts.
For the multiple shots too, up their
Yeah.
ballistic skill. Great. It's also good for like reasserting your elite units above. So when you think about your Wild Riders, if they want to charge into like White Lions, they're going to reroll the hits. 'cause
Executioners.
Yep, they're going to reroll the hits, but you want them hitting on 3s, not 4s. You've only got to get one on that.
Yeah.
Good against Warriors of Chaos for that reason.
Yeah, very good.
So it's got some really good versatility there.
And as well, even against sort of units that you're already a higher weapon skill than,
Yep.
making them hit you back
On 5s.
on 5s. Yeah.
Yeah, because you pushed above.
Yeah.
So I've just got here for Wood Elves more than the other high magic armies. It's the shooting side of it is the ballistic
Yeah.
skill that's better. So it's not essential, but can really help your army out in scenarios. Now, Walk Between Worlds is number 3. A spell which allows you to move the unit 10 inches on the base value of 8+, or 20 inches on 16+. Now the unit also gains the ethereal special rule while they say make this move. Movement is competitive Warhammer. They are interchangeable statements sometimes, and any spell which allows you to move again is really strong. Any spell that allows you to do that whilst you're ethereal, so you can move through stuff without penalty.
And moving you from 10 to 20 inches as
Yeah.
well.
And when you're an army that likes to move away and not get charged, this is a great spell. This is one of the best reasons to take high magic as far as I'm concerned.
Is it a move as if it was like the remaining moves phase, or is it just pick it up, plop it
No,
down?
it's,
As
it's
if it were-
remaining moves.
Okay.
Yeah. So you still got to follow the rules for all your regular movements.
Got a wheel, got all that jazz.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
It's not like Hand of Glory from a...
Yeah.
No, but it's particularly spicy on skirmishers, and there's quite a few good skirmishing choices
There's
in
a
this
lot
army.
of skirmishers in this army.
So
Fast Cav as well, Wild Riders, getting sisters out, super out of archetypes behind
he's
things.
excellent on Wild Riders if they get pulled out a little bit because of that frenzy. Just get them back where you need them. So, so we're going to move on to Tempest. This one. Now this one's a direct damage. It drops a large template at strength 3. If the unit that you strike is flying, the strength is upgraded to strength 4. Now it's probably the least useful spell in the lore in general.
Yeah.
But I do think it's probably better for Wood Elves than a lot of the other factions that get high magic because it's dropping more stuff on blocks, and Wood Elves don't necessarily have the most ways of dealing with blocks.
No, but it is all at the same strength that they do already have a lot of.
Yes.
So
It's
they're
just
not
adding
really
on, isn't
adding.
it?
Yeah.
It's not
It's not really giving them anything they don't already have. It's
That's
just
it.
giving them more of what they do.
So I've got here, there are 2 signature spells, both of which are very good. So, if you don't think your opponent's going to be troubled by this, which there are quite a lot that won't be, it's not a big deal. Well, it's not skinks.
Warriors.
But yeah, you're right. If you don't think they're going to be troubled, not a big deal. You just flip it over for one of those SIGs.
I would say it does have a secondary effect. I don't know if you're going to speak about that as well.
Are they -1?
Yeah, so if you suffer any unsaved wounds from this spell, the unit suffers a -1 modifier to all hit rolls, both shooting and combat, until the start of the caster's next magic, and things that don't use Blizzard skill to shoot need to roll a 4+ first.
Oh wow, I didn't even realise that.
Oh wow.
So it's
Yeah, I missed
like
that.
it combines the Storm Banner with that large blast strength 3.
Yeah, okay. That's
So-
pretty good. But you do have to wound them.
It has to be an unsaved wound, but you're with a large
It's a
blast
large
against
blast, though.
Yeah, I'm thinking like artillery for the sort of hitting on a 4+. You probably won't get to
Yeah.
hit them once.
Yeah, but it's
that's-
just like,
that's
but
fair.
even just give a -1 to hit towards shooting units like lead
Yeah.
belchers or stuff like that.
I mean, if
Yeah.
you face other wood elves, that's horrendous. They haven't got truth lines.
Yeah. Again, I think this is something that I talk about with dark magic as well. Is you know, like it's that stopping you getting shot back when you're in your pajamas.
Yeah.
Shooting's really scary for you too.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's anything that does that's good. So that is sorry, Max. That's a
fine.
very well spotted point. That's
Yeah.
why we have a team of us doing this. I've forgotten that it actually affects the shooting. The -1 affects the shooting.
Yeah,
portion as
I
well.
had no idea it did that.
So yeah, it's worth considering, I think, for Woodies. So we're going to move on to spell 5, which is Arcane Unforging. Now, this one's I've got a little bit wordy here. Now, the spell does a hit on an enemy model of your choosing. It can be a character in a unit, and it wounds that model on their armor save with no armor saves allowed. So, like Law of Metal. The model's bearer must then reveal any magic items that the model has. One is randomly selected, and on a roll of a 2+, that item is destroyed. Now, the wound doesn't need to be caused by the spell for the second
To
part
trigger
of that
the
to
effect.
happen. Yeah. Very strong spell. Counters some of the best magic items in Warhammer.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Crown of Command on your gut stars. 4+ wall saves on your enemy wizards and generals.
War saves on like all
Battle of the World Dragon, beware.
That's the one for me, because Wood Elves have... For me, Wood Elves have two answers to the Banner of the World Dragon. They have this, like spell-wise, sort of outside of just hitting with
Dwellers.
Wild Riders and hoping.
Yeah.
They have this, and they have one from Dark Magic, which we'll get on to.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, the other options are there. You've got things like Final Transmutation.
Yeah,
A fifth of them are dead. It's as good as Honest Bill's Black Horror that you can talk about in a minute.
a third of them are dead.
Sorry, a third of them are dead. Yeah, same as Honest Bill's.
Yes, yes, but you probably aren't taking... As much as Metal seems like a fantastic lore for Wood Elves, you probably aren't taking it.
No, probably not. It's just that you're right, there are options. This is a very good option.
Yeah.
It's great for Boltwood in particular, for Widows, because they have so many magical attacks
Yeah,
from their
exactly.
enchanted arrows.
Yeah.
Now, it's also good, as I always say at this point, for shooting low-level wizards that you think might have a Dispel Scroll in the first couple of turns, because it just gets the Dispel Scroll out and destroys it.
It's like, it's probably the only magic item they have.
Yeah, it's harsh.
Are you going to use your scroll, or are you going to let me destroy your scroll?
You're going to use a scroll almost every time.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, very good. And then
Yeah.
finally, you've got the big one, the unit killer, Fiery Convocation. Now, again, if we're looking at the Banner of the World Dragon, bit of Arcane Unforging plus Fiery Convocation's pretty good.
But if you got the dice to do both of the same time, mate, you got a lot of dice. That
Now, I've got here, if you're using level 4 wizard, you need to roll a 15 here. If you're in a wood, that's a 14. So you can get this down to like a 4 dice throw on average.
Yeah.
But you know, you probably do want to throw 5 with wood
Yeah,
elves.
just to make sure, and to get that higher cost to make it even less likely to be spelled as well.
Now, everyone in the target unit takes a strength 4 flaming hit. Then at the end of the next magic phase, this happens again, because this monster of a spell remains in play. Now, I've lost count of the times my opponent has used all their dispel dice to stop this spell, failed to stop it, and then had to, use all their power dice to stop it as well. So it's just insane.
For some armies in particular, it is truly terrifying.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
There's very
Basically, any other elves.
men.
Yeah,
Even
Empire.
things like Bretonians, because you just don't really want that chipping away.
Yeah,
at that,
strength
you know?
4 is not great for Bretonians. They've only got 2 up armour and they only get their 6 up ward against it.
Yep, and again, like goblins, orcs,
Yeah.
even Warriors of Chaos. I burn through lots of Warriors of Chaos.
Lizards. It wounds them on a 4 and they don't have amazing armour.
No, undead. We're getting to a place with everyone.
It's basically off on
It's basically
demons.
everyone. Yeah, that's really good against
Yeah,
demons.
it's really good.
Basically everyone.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's
There's
good.
not really a bad army to...
Botwood is bad
put on.
against Botwood.
Yeah, just Arcane Unfortunate first.
So yeah. Well, anything we've missed, Max?
No, I hate this spell. It's just a nightmare to have to either deal with or try counteract or just to swallow, just to get over and done with.
So in which case, I'm going to give the score, give the lore its score. That's what I've got here. So it's 4 for variety of spell types, 4 for the power and frequency of the lore attribute, 3 for the average spell range, 4 for the spell's flexibility, 3 for the average cast value. Now, if you watch the High Elf deep dive, you'll know that it got 4 there, and that's because Lilia's Blessing applies to every.
Applies all the
Everywhere.
time.
All the time,
Everywhere,
yeah.
yeah.
It applies every
Just
time
when
you
it's in
cast
wood.
it. Whereas if you're in a wood, you can up that to 4,
Yeah.
basically. But you're not always going to be in a wood. Sorry. And then 3 for the quality of the signature spell. So this gives this score, this law, a whopping score. I did it twice. This gives this law a whopping score of 21 out of 24. Look at that.
He rhymes so much.
So it's just really good, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. You say a lot, don't you? It's the best lore in Warhammer.
Oh, I think it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's just there's never a scenario where you've got spells where you've got access to high magic and you think, oh, there's nothing I can do about that.
Yeah.
There's always something you can do about it with
Yeah.
this law of magic. So
Yeah.
I do like it. But we're going to move on because it's not the only one for Wood Elves.
It is not.
They
no.
get 2 greedy boys.
Greedy elves.
Greedy gelves.
I said elves.
So we're going to go now to look at the law of dark magic because, as Scott alluded to earlier, you've got the whole duality with Wood Elves, which is
I like that about them. To be
quite
fair, I like
cool.
that they've. I did like in their old book the law. I can't remember, I think it was just called the law of Athel Rem.
It
wasn't
was,
it?
yeah.
I like that they had their own law, but I also like that they've with this book gone into the
I
sort of-
think it's better.
into the duality side of their personality, their sort of society.
I like that a lot as well.
Mm.
So we're gonna have a look at the law of dark magic now. So we're gonna go first with the law attribute. Now this one is called Wrath of the Wood. Every time a spell is successfully cast from this law, place a vengeance counter next to any enemy units that were targeted by the spell. Whenever a unit with a counter suffers hit from a spell from the law of dark magic, remove the counters and increase the number of hits inflicted by the spell by D3 per counter. Now, so there's something to bear in mind here, which is that the order that you cast spells in will make a massive difference to the success of this.
Yeah.
Because you want to cast hexes first to build counters, and then magic missiles or direct damage second
Yes.
to expend the counters. The other thing as well that's a bit of a shame is that you can only kind of expend the counters on half of the law,
Yeah.
because the other half of the law just adds more counters. But it's a bit of a weird one because, for example, if I doombolt you, I do my hits, and at the end of that I place a counter.
Yeah.
So I can
So
sort
even
of,
even the magic missiles and the direct damages place a counter afterwards.
but I can burn them off for extra damage and then drop one off when
Yeah.
I'm finished.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a monster, it's a give and take. So
I mean, if you do not use the counters, they do stack. You leave them there for the next turn for your next magic phase.
that is the point. You can
Yeah.
sort of save them a
Hit
little
them with a
bit.
few hexes.
Yeah.
Good position and stuff. But I mean, Wood Elves do like to gang up. So
Yeah.
sometimes you can sort of find you've got a few on a unit that you don't really want to hit anymore because you've done most of it anyway, and it's a bit overkill now. But that's a side point. It's not a bad lore attribute. It's the real sort of menace of it. The fact that the kind of damage of it only triggers half the time is a bit frustrating.
Yeah.
But
to be fair, I'd argue it's better than the Dark Elf lore attribute.
I don't know, that's immediate. One of the things I've found with this in the past is that I go for, say, a Doombolt and so I just kill it. So I've not got a benefit from my lore
Yeah, but
attribute.
you could never get that lore attribute from Dark Elves in a game.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And I think you're probably more likely to get the extra D3 hits at least once
Maybe.
in a game.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, maybe. So certainly, I think it's fair to say it's pretty decent.
It's okay.
Now, again, like High Magic, there are 2 signature spells for the Law of Dark Magic, the first of which is called Power from Darkness. Now, this one is an augment that targets the caster's unit. All models gain +1 strength. Then you add D3 power dice to your power pool. If
Three dice.
you roll a 3 on the dice, the wizard takes a wound with no armor saves.
Yeah.
So you add D3 dice. If the result is a 3, the maximum you can score, you take no armor save. You take a wound with no armor save. Now this, then, sorry, I've said the +1 strength, haven't I?
Yeah.
God, I'm losing the plot here for a minute, aren't
you
I?
just lost it.
So the bearer casts a spell, them and their unit gains +1 strength.
Yeah.
In addition, they roll a D3, and that's how many extra power dice they get. If they roll a 3 on that D3, they take a win with no armor save.
Yes.
Job's a good one. The +1 strength is pretty good.
Yeah, it is actually.
But as it must target the wizard's unit, it's a bit limiting.
Yeah.
Because
Put her in a unit of sisters, their javelins get stronger.
There you
that's
go.
yeah, that's quite a good idea. But I certainly think that you know, obviously Wild Rider's Eternal Guard feels like the place you want that buff.
Yeah, probably.
And then you don't really want your wizard in the front
No.
row charging that one in. So
No.
mixed bag with that one.
Yeah.
Mixed bag. And to be honest, I don't very often take that lore attribute as a result.
No,
No, that is that
spell.
signature spell, sorry,
Yeah,
as a
no.
result, if I'm honest with you.
No.
And you're...
I do remember seeing it a lot with the previous Lore of Dark Magic, with the old Dark Elf book.
Yeah, 'cause
like,
it
everyone
was sick.
Yeah, everyone used to stay like one dice it, hope for the best. But I hardly see it. To be honest, I don't really see Lore of Dark Magic that often anyway.
No, I think I'm an innovator.
He likes
I
to
ran
think.
Dark Magic a lot.
He likes to
As I
think
said,
so.
it's really good. The second signature spell is Doombolt. Now this one's a magic missile that does 2d6 or 4d6 strength 5 hits. So it's like a pumped up soul
Yeah,
quench.
it's fantastic.
It's cast on a 12 or 24 respectively, however, so it's a much higher cast value.
Yeah, the
I'm
12
not
is not
surprised.
so bad, but the 24 is very high.
24 is just immense.
Yeah,
they're
so
46 strength 5. You do obliterate basically anything you throw it at.
I mean, so I've got it. This is a terrifying spell to behold, but is mediated by its casting value.
Yeah,
Doombolt has fantastic synergy with Wood Elves though, because it offers range strength 5 hits,
that they
which
just
they
don't
really
have.
don't have. So that's where it is better than the Soul Quench, because the Soul Quench is giving them sort of a bit of strength 4, which is close to what they've got.
Yeah.
This is some distance from strength 3.
Yeah.
So, you know, good. We like it. It's definitely if you're going to take this lore, you really probably should have that every time Doombolt.
Yeah,
Should just swap through it.
I would say so. Yeah.
So let's go forward. Chillwind is next. That's spell number 1, and that's a magic missile that inflicts 2d6 strength 2 hits. Now, if the enemy unit suffers any unsaved wounds from the spell, they're -1 to ballistic skill until your next magic phase. So strength is low, but with 18-inch range and only a cast of 5+,
It's
Yeah.
not bad.
it's not terrible. And
Oh, really?
it's actually pretty good for Wood Elves, because if you're fighting enemy shooting, it's quite scary for you. You know, things like crossbows even, they kill you on 3
Yeah.
if you're not sort of a wild rider. You know, because you've got a bit of a
they'll have
save.
bit of a save.
Yeah, but you know.
And generally shooting units don't have a lot of armour, so the
No.
lack of strength, especially if it's probably toughness 3, so the lack of strength doesn't really matter all that much.
No.
It's just for wounding, yeah. So it's
But,
pretty
I mean,
good.
you hit every model in the unit, don't you?
No, it's 2d6 hits.
Oh, I thought it was. Oh, it's,
No,
it's
you're
the
thinking
other
something
one,
else.
Blade Wound, yeah. So it's, you know, still not bad. 2d6 get 7. You probably wound. You can probably get 3 5s in that. 2 or 3 5s.
Yeah, I think it's alright.
Yeah.
It's okay. The main thing is the -1 ballistic skill that you're doing from now, I think, more than anything else. So I've put Wood Elf Pyjamas are no match for Missile Fire. This is useful. Spell 2 is the Word of Pain, and he's probably, in my opinion, this is one of the 2 spells that really stands out to me about this Lore of Magic.
Yeah, it's a great spell.
Because it's a spell that's, whilst there's other spells like it, this one's quite unique, I think, in what it does. So it's a hex with a range of 24. Enemy units have their weapon skill and ballistic skill reduced by D3 on a 9+. This can be boosted to include strength and initiative for a bargain 12+.
That's
Mad.
big.
Yeah. Now-
Three
such a-
extra to cast for strength and initiative.
Now, where do I begin? Another reduction for ballistic skill.
Yeah.
Great for my low armoured troops.
Yeah.
Reducing weapon skill can help ensure that I hit you on a 3+ for my Wild Riders as well if I'm going
Yeah.
in combat. Lowering my enemy strength is absolutely insane.
And initiative as well. You can lower an elf initiative, so you get your rerolls and they don't.
Only if
I get
they've not got SF.
Yeah.
But yeah. You know, it's also got good synergy with Chillwind that we just talked about, because
Yeah.
you can then get the ballistic skill down and then apply another minus to the ballistic skill. It's just quite unpleasant, and actually it's got a lot of synergy with the rest of the lore too.
Yeah, almost every other spell in the lore.
Yeah, so it's really good, but it's that fact that it's sort of that weird thing where it's a hex that reduces strength and weapon skill and all on a 12. I think
Yeah.
the reducing strength spell is cast on a 13 from Lord
From
Shadow.
Shadow. It's 11 or 13, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't
So
remember
it's
which
a
one
big,
it is.
it's a big cast.
So
Yeah.
this is 24-inch range.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's a really
Yeah,
good
it's
spell,
fantastic.
and I think whilst there are lots of hex like it, the combination of stats that this one hits is particularly
The
unpleasant.
fact that it does 2 on its base cast value as well.
Mm.
Normally, like for sort of Melkoff's Mystify Miasma from Shadow, it's you do 1 or you boost it to effects.
All 4.
4 of them, I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, this just does 2 straight off the bat.
No, I like it. It's really good.
Yeah.
So I'm going to stick with the train because the trains are rolling now. So we're gonna come right through this forest, and we're going to go with Blade Wind, which is spell number 3. Now this one is our first direct damage spell of the day, from the Law of Dark Magic, and with a range of 24 and a cast value of 9+. Now every model in the enemy unit immediately takes a weapon skill test. If they fail, they suffer a single hit with strength 4 that has the armor piercing special roll. So before I read my next cheat sheet notes, we just talked about Word of Pain, reducing weapon skill. This one then makes you take a test against that weapon skill value that you just reduced, and if you fail it, you take a strength 4 armor piercing hit. This is a unit killer.
Yeah.
It's a unit killer that's casting a 9.
Yeah.
Especially like against toughness 3 stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I've rocked this out against plague bearers, because like even without doing anything to their weapon skill, they fail 50% of them.
Yeah.
So you start talking about killing, you start doing then 25% of the wounds, 25% of the units taking a wound, and they're going to save like a third of that. You start sort of fishing around 18% of the, 1/6 of the unit's dead.
Yeah.
From a 9+ cast. That's amazing.
Any spell that has something that targets every single model in the unit is pretty big.
Especially on a 9+.
Yeah.
So I've got here that this is great for maiming large units, particularly tar pit type units like Skaven Slaves, weapon skill 2.
It's a bad day to be a Skaven Slave.
Weapon skill 1.
Yeah. Skeletons as well, weapon skill 2.
Men of the Empire hate this. This is awful for them. And it's amazing for Wood Elves because those types of units are often the worst ones to shift. Those units that are rubbish, but they've got loads of bodies.
I'll be honest, even Graveguard.
Yeah.
They're only weapon skill 3.
50% of the time. So, and you got to think averagely, weapon skill 3 is pretty common.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Blade Wind's a great spell.
Yeah, it really is.
And then you got to think as well, after that, if they've got counters on them, they take D3 additional strength 4 armor piercing hits too.
Yeah.
Which is just cheap.
from the counter because you've just cast Word of Pain on them.
Yes. So now spell 4 is my other standout spell from the lore. It's not that the others are bad, because I think you could argue 5 and 6 are also quite standout spells. But for me, 4 is because of that uniqueness about it again. Yeah. And it's the Shroud of Despair, and it's a real feature of my Wood Elf army. Now this is another hex which affects all enemy units within 12 of the bearer. Until the caster's next magic phase, those units may not use the General's Inspiring Presence or the Battle Standard Bearer's Hold Your Ground special rules. Furthermore, if a unit affected by this spell fails a leadership test, then all other units affected by the spell immediately suffer -1 leadership until the caster's next magic phase. This is cumulative. It's a 10+.
That's fantastic, isn't it?
So I can honestly say, when you're fighting chaff heavy lists, this is a game changer.
Yeah.
I did this to I don't want to name him in case he gets upset. I did this to a good friend of ours, and he had Alariel in a big unit of Swordmasters of Hoeth, bit different. And I was using the bus Sisters of the Thorn with the 2 casters, and I ran around the back. And I went for some spells, as you do, and he stopped a couple, and I got the Doom and Darkness off on the Swordmasters, and then I had 1 left, popped a Power Stone on my Dark Wizard, because I was using the Power Stone on the Dark Wizard in that list, and then cast the Shroud.
Yeah.
Then shot a unit of Reavers to one side of the unit. They managed to pass their test, but the other units around, one of them didn't.
Yeah.
So then suddenly Alariel's unit's down to leadership 6. Then I shot a unit that he had directly in front of Alariel's unit, panicked them. They fled through Alariel's unit, which panics. And because the units in front's just panicked, they're now leadership 5. They foul, they run away from panic then, which was the unit in front, and they go off the table through me taking dangerous running away just for the ban. And and this is like 1,000 points of his army.
Yeah.
And I've done nothing for it.
Yeah.
I've done a 10+. I mean, I've got Doom and Darkness, which helps. But genuinely, you make people take enough tests,
they're going to fail
and it's good. And so it starts to become something that your opponent feels like is a must-dispel.
Yeah.
Now, if it's a must-dispel, I mean, look at Max's face. Look at the terror.
It's just my bane. They really are my bane.
Now, if you start feeling like this is a must-dispel, well, you're not then... Suddenly, then you start going, well, maybe I'll let you have that Doom Bolt. Maybe I'll let you have that Blade Wind.
The Word of Pain.
Maybe I'll let you have that Soul Stealer that we're going to look at in a minute. You guys at home make your own decision about that.
It takes...
I rate this spell.
Yeah, it takes a bit more...
It takes a bit of planning
into
Yes.
to make it work. It's not a sort of...
And obviously it doesn't work against immune psychology.
Yeah, it's not a sort of plug and play spell like Doombolt is. It's
Yes.
just a magic missile. You have, but when you get it right, my God, it can change a game
100%.
like that.
Just overnight. So
Overnight, how long are your games?
long.
My God.
So yeah, it's very quick. You're right.
Yeah.
So we'll move on, and we'll return to direct damage now for spell 5, which is the Soul Stealer. Now this one has a range of 18 and is cast on 11 plus, and you place a small round template on the target and scatter it d6 inches. All models hit suffer a strength 2 hit, but this is with no armor saves. That's pretty decent,
Yeah, that's not bad.
especially against humans or elf knights.
Yeah.
But wait, there's more. So, for every wound inflicted, the caster then rolls a d6. On a roll of a 4+, they immediately gain a wound. Now, this can give them back ones they've lost. It can also take them above their starting wounds value. And you can get to a maximum of 10 wounds before this caps out. Now, the wizard can also pump this up for a 14+ version, which increases the range to 36 inches. Don't need line of sight. Only arm of sight. This is a good spell, especially if your Dark Wizard is also your general, which my Dark Wizard is. If I take a Dark Wizard, now I've got a 10 wound general. I've lost count of the times I've ended up with just that general rolling around on like 7 wounds, and you're not getting the points off of her. There she is. I love you.
He's not killing her at all with 7 wounds.
Yeah,
not with a 4+ ward save.
I've seen a friend of ours, Tim Richardson, run with his Dark Elves, not his Wood Elves, but his Dark Elves with Morathai.
Horrid.
Yeah.
She's running around with 9 wounds.
This weekend, actually, she had 10 wounds. I mean, she miscast the spell and fell down the hole, so it didn't matter. But before she fell down the hole, she did have 10 wounds.
And she still got 10 of those wounds down the hole with her.
And I think the other thing here is it tears through armour. It's like no armour saves.
Yeah.
There isn't, anything that does that is good for Wood Elves.
Yeah.
They don't like armour. Yeah. You drop that on a unit of knights, and you hit like 6 or 8 knights.
Probably win them on 5s, but...
Killed 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah.
Suits me.
Then you suddenly hit it over like an elf infantry block or human infantry block. You suddenly hit sort of 15 dudes.
Yeah, or rats. You can hit like 8.
Yeah.
I think, is it 21 you can get under a small round if it's dead centre?
Yeah.
If it lands a hit. The other thing as well is, I pair this with Death Magic on my second caster, and then I have
Soul Blight minus
-1 toughness. So suddenly, like anything that's toughness 3 is potentially 4 pluses on this bad boy.
Yeah.
It's a great spell. It's really good. You love to see it.
You
it
do.
also makes your wizard more survivable.
Yeah.
Which survivability is a problem for Wood Elves. There's great synergy here for Wood Elves. Now, last but not least, is our unit killer.
Yes.
And I know that I waxed about Bladewind being a unit killer, but this one is a real one. This one is Arnzapul's Black Horror, and it's a remains in play magical vortex that is cast on a 15+ for a small round template, or you can boost this one up to 25+ for a large round template. Now, its range is an artillery dice times the caster's wizard level. So 3 or 4.
Yeah, probably 4.
Yeah, I mean you can't get it on a 2 unless you've lost wizard levels. So no, it's going to be times 3 or 4. Any model touched or passed over must pass a strength test or be removed from play. If they have a ward save, they may take it. And if they pass, they live. But it's a fantastic spell for Wood Elves as it helps deal with larger units. It can, that would otherwise be problematic. It can deal with multiple units at a time because it's a vortex.
It's classic vortex. Great spell.
And it has synergy with Word of Pain because it's based on
Drops their strength.
And Word of Pain drops strength.
Yeah, it's and this is the other spell that I was talking about that is the Wood Elves' main magical answer to the Banner of the World Dragon.
It's self-contained. That's what's really good about that. Sorry, just quickly, that combination of Word of Pain and Arnzapul's Black Horror, it's self-contained. It's all in the one lore. I don't have to start pulling in external influences. If I can get the 2-on-1 model and bang, it's on. But yeah, back to Banner of the World Dragon for Wood Elves, which is tricky.
Yeah, it really is tricky, like you said, with high magic because they've got so many enchanted arrows.
Yeah.
So the Banner of the World Dragon is an issue. So if you do go dark magic, this is your bread and butter. This with Word of Pain is your bread and butter for dealing with Arnzapul's Black Horror. I remember throwing it through some White Lions and killing something ridiculous after I would have painted them down to strength 1 and there was like 3 left.
Yeah, and I think
Wow.
And I killed like 21, it was
the
insane.
crucial thing is, just to clear this up, is that because Honestpool's Black Horror removes you from play,
Yes.
what it says is, I believe it says it...
Slain outright with no arm saves allowed. The
Yeah.
model may take a single ward save if it has one.
Yeah.
The model remains in play if the save succeeds.
slain outright with no armor saves allowed. Now, when you read the Banner of the World Dragon, it says you have a 2+ ward save against wounds caused by spells. It doesn't cause wounds, it slays you outright. As a result, the ward save from the Banner of the World Dragon is not triggered, it's not activated, if you like. So you don't get it. Sad times. As a High Elf General, you hate to see that.
Good times for a Wood Elf General.
Good times for everyone else.
Yeah. So that's it, basically. It's very good.
Yeah.
Very strong, obvious to... Well, I mean, we always feel that it's quite obvious that it was meant to be a hard counter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think
and
that
we
makes
quite
sense.
like that. It's a good unit killer. It's
It
well
really
worth-
is, yeah. Even sort of forgetting Banner of the World Dragon, it's really good against like Dark Elf Witches.
This is good.
Fantastic
This
against
is
them.
good against a lot of stuff because I can drop your strength.
Yeah.
So we're going to get the rating in.
Yeah.
Let's get this lore rated up. So it gets a 4 for variety of spell types. It gets a 2 for the power and frequency of the lore attribute because unfortunately that interaction doesn't happen
All
on
that
every,
often.
you know, the
Yeah.
extra hits don't happen all the time. It gets 3 for average spell range. It's just shy of the real big numbers there. 3 for spell flexibility
Yeah.
because you've got some boosting there. It gets 3 for average cast value. So again, when we talk about Dark Elves, they get Hetarchy's Blessing, which is always a +1 to cast Dark Magic, but the Wood Elves are only getting it in a wood. So in a wood, you buff 1 on top. And then it gets 3 for the quality of the signature spell, and that's just because it's their sort of high cast values, basically.
Yeah.
But that's a total of 18 out of 24, which is another fantastic score.
Still
It's a
really,
respectable
really
score
good.
for it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there it is. That's the 2 laws of magic. Both we really like.
Yes.
Both we're actually going to discuss in the next section again
Ooh.
when we take a look at 3 sample army lists for competitive Wood Elves. Well, you have made it to the final section of today's video.
As have we.
As have you guys.
As
yeah.
have we.
And we're going to now go through some sample army lists for competitive Wood Elves. Now we've got 3 army lists to digest with you guys. They're all 2,500 point army lists. Now one of them, as ever, will be a completely uncommon list. And tonight we're going for a defensive list on that one. Now, in short, this is the sort of list that one of us would take if there was no restrictions whatsoever on what you could do. Then we've got 2 other lists. Now both of them are using the Triple Crown GT comp. One of them is what I call an all-rounder list for Wood Elves, and you'll have seen that before if you're if you've watched all the channel's videos. And one is an avoidance list. So we're going to begin with the uncomped defensive playlist.
Okay.
I'm hoping this is going to put some horrified visages on my compatriots' faces. So we're going to begin with a Spellweaver, who is a level 4 wizard. That's my general. And she's on Law of Shadow. She has a Dispel Scroll and a Talisman of Preservation.
Okay.
I have a Glade Captain, who is a Battle Standard Bearer, with an Azurai Spear, an Enchanted Shield, and the Howl of Doom Arrow. Now, it's worth pointing out that Glade Captains come with an Azurai Longbow.
Yes.
You don't have to pay for that. Now, then we're going to go to Core, and there's quite a lot of this.
I can see from here there's a hell of a lot there.
So we've got 14 Glade Guard with Musicians and Standards with True Flight Arrows. 14 Glade Guard with Musicians, Standard and True Flight Arrows. 14 Glade Guard with Musicians, Standard and True Flight Arrows. So, okay. Now we've got 14 Glade Guard with Musicians, Standards and Hagbane Arrows.
Oh.
I'm mixing it up just for you, and I've got 14 Glade Guard with Musician and Hagbane Arrows because I didn't have
Couldn't
quite
afford the
enough for the
standard
5th
bearer.
Standard Bearer. Okay,
That's
excellent.
upsetting.
Okay, now we're moving into our special slot. We've got 5 Deepwood Scouts with Starfire Arrows, 5 Deepwood Scouts with Starfire Arrows, and ladies and gentlemen, we've got 5 more Deepwood Scouts with Starfire Arrows. And then to round this list off, we've got 2 units of 7 Wild Riders with Shields and the Champion, and 2 units of 5 Sisters of the Thorn with no upgrades. So this one is an absolute shoot fest.
Yeah.
Now the 3 units of Deepwood Scouts double up as my redirectors in this list as well.
Yeah.
Because they're not very many points, and the idea is they strip regen in the early turns, and then they die in the later turns. Now, well, there's a lot to go through with this one. So the sisters can offer me a lot of harrying because they've got their poison shots. They also give me channels to my Spellweaver because I'm quite character light. They also give me 2 rounds of Curse of Amra here. Really unpleasant. Excellent. And Laura Shadow with any sort of shoot heavy list is incredible.
Yeah,
I can turn
really
these 14-man sticks of Glade Guard into 14-man strength 8 or 9 sticks of Glade Guard, which are very good with Always Strikes First.
Yes, they are, yeah.
I can also reduce my opponent's movement, which I think is really overlooked in the Law of Shadow, and very, very solid.
Especially for an army like this that doesn't really want you to get close to it. Slowing you down.
Yes.
Doesn't like the rush armies at all.
No, but it's okay, because if you do want to rush me, I've still got 14 Wild Riders to give you some business. I'm all over that. So again, the Wild Riders, we know they speak for themselves. They do plenty of damage, and they're used as a counter-punch element in this list. So we're holding them back. We're not getting too excited with them. In fact, what we're going to do is probably use the Glade Guard to physically stop them being able to charge in some of those earlier turns. And then we'll pull them round to where we need them to be. And we'll deliver that real strong counter-punch. Again, there's some fantastic synergy and interplay between both the Curse of Amra here and the Law of Shadow with the Wild Riders too.
Yeah.
This is a strong list. It's unpleasant.
What is the comp on this? If it was comp?
It's just -8 at Triple Crown.
-8.
So
but that's the whole purpose. This is an uncomped list, so this is the tippy top of the list.
I've got 70 magic arrows in the core alone, and then I've got another 15. Plus I've got the poison javelins from my Sisters of the Thorn.
There's a lot going on.
And I've got lots of stuff. I've got 45 or so that hit, 42 rather, that hit on unmodified ballistic skill. And I've got another 28 that hit with poison plus 10 more poisons from the Sisters.
15 flaming plus 1 to reinforce the destruction.
That's right. I can strip regen quite
unpleasantly.
comfortably. Yeah, really good. And I've still got things like Pit of Shades as well.
Yeah.
So I forget all the nasty, unpleasant things that can come from the Law of Shadow. That's pretty strong.
Isn't Pendulum part of Law of Shadow?
It certainly is.
Yeah, Pendulum, so that's like a cannonball itself, so you got some monster clearance if you want.
And I've got Howl of Doom as well. So don't forget that little joy. Now look, real talk, it does have to contend with fast flying heavy army lists. It can be quite heavy, and again armies like Bretonians might become a little more problematic for an army like this one
potentially,
but they've got to be careful too because of my Occam's Mind Razor and my Wild Riders in their long lance sides. So
they are terrified of those Wild Riders.
Again, artillery pieces could be an issue, but we do have we've
got 15 flaming plus 1 to wound, and they're probably going to be forced to destruction. So
I've got Sisters of Thorn as well, which I don't
just
mind using in that style. I can charge, throw poison, javelins, very good. I've also got Hagbane in its
get them in range,
This is a pretty strong list. And obviously Laura Shadow can reduce ballistic skill. Lots of toolbox in this one. Really good. And again, what we were saying, Wood Elves can do competitive. They really can. I know we've had points where we've talked rough stuff about their magic items and some really tricky stuff about their some of their units, but the units they have got that really stack up, boy do they stack up well.
Yeah, and just take the good items from the rulebook. Don't worry about theirs.
Yeah. But take Halidome. So we're going to move on now to the 2 Triple Crown lists we've got for you now. The first one is what I call an all-round Wood Elf list, and this is actually the list that I use most of the time when I'm playing competitive Warhammer with Wood Elves.
Is this the one that was on the channel?
It is the one that I thought you using the vampire counts on the channel.
Way back when. That seems like such a long time ago now.
When we were outside.
It was stunning.
Before we were inside our new studio that I really like. So this one is Spellweaver. There's a level 4 wizard, that's my general. She's using dark magic. She has a Dispel Scroll, a Talisman of Preservation, and she's on an Elven Steed. Now, to go with her, I have a second Spellweaver, who is level 4 wizard on the Law of Death, with the Power Stone, the Obsidian Amulet, and also mounted on an Elven Steed. I have my Glade Captain again. He's still a Battle Standard. He has an Azrai Spear and Enchanted Shield. And he has the Howl of Doom arrow again. And he comes with an Azrai Longbow because he doesn't get a choice. Now, my core in this army is 4 units of 10 Glade Guard. All of them have musicians and all of them have True Flight arrows. 2 of them also have Standard Bearers. And it's just for fortitude missions, basically.
Yeah. And for you to hit core, I think.
Yes, I think, yeah. And then I've got 6 Deepwood Scouts with Starfire arrows, and another unit of 6 Deepwood Scouts with Starfire arrows. Then I've got 2 units of 5 War Dancers with no upgrades, 2 units of our favourite friends, 7 Wild Riders with shields and champions, and I have 10 Sisters of the Thorn with a musician and a standard bearer, and I have the Gleaming Pennant in that unit as well. Now that allows me to reroll my first failed leadership test, because these guys are probably going to end up quite a way away from my battle standard. And then finally I've got a Great Eagle.
Cheeky eagle.
This one's -1.
It's not a bad
good.
list.
It's good for a -1.
Now obviously I've got a lot less shots, it's worth saying.
Played it enough to know how annoying it can be to play it.
Yeah, well the War Dancers come in to help supplement the lack of shots by basically controlling more of the table space.
Yeah.
So that I can kind of take longer to do the shooting. If
Yeah,
you like.
and you've got more. You've got actual dedicated chaff that
Yes.
you can lose and you can sacrifice without having to sacrifice any shots.
That's
Yeah,
correct,
Which is a
yeah.
big thing.
And again, from that point of view, my characters are a lot harder to get the points in my characters because they're going to be in that Sisters of the Thorn unit. The 2 wizards, they're going to skate around the table. They've got a 2+ ward save against sort of wounds caused by spells.
Yeah.
From the combination of their ward save and the magic resistance on my death wizard. I've also got Law of Death, which is
Fantastic.
really unpleasant.
Yeah.
And Dark Magic, which we just talked very positively about.
Yeah, it's a strong lot to go
Yeah.
with it.
And it's got good synergy with Death because you've got like Shroud of Despair plus
Doom and Darkness.
Doom of Darkness. You've got
Uninterpretable Black Horror and Soul Blight.
Soul Blight. Yep, you've got Soul Blight and
Word of Pain.
Word of Pain. Not
No,
Soul Blight.
you've got
Well, Soul Blight and Word of Pain's good as well because you can drop strength by miles.
yeah.
You've also got Soul Blight and Soul Stealer, the double soul action.
Yeah.
And you've also got Soul Blight and Chill Wind because that's only strength 2
Yeah,
too.
you've got Word of Pain and Purple Sun as well.
Yes,
Dropping a shield.
you've also got Word of Pain and both and Caress of Laneth.
And Fate of Bunya.
Fate's toughness though.
Oh yeah.
So you soul blind fate. You soul blind fate.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do that yourself. That's insular.
Yeah.
But again,
Yeah.
you know, we're just sitting here riffing off all
Lots
these
of
little
little-
silly combinations.
Yeah.
They're all really good, and something that Death lacks is conventional sort of magic missile type damage.
Yeah.
Which you know it's okay because I got Doombolt.
You've got Blade Wind, which is
and
sort of similar to that sort of damage.
and a lot of power dice recycling with potentially power from darkness and the
And
law
death
attribute from
attribute.
death. Really strong combination. Really unpleasant.
Yeah.
You know, but I have got concessions. The War Dancers are a bit of a concession. I've got a lot less shooting than when we looked at the first list, so I have to do a lot more work with my wizards and my sisters to make up for that far sort of reduced volume of shooting.
Did you still have the Power Stone in that list as well?
You did.
Doing this list, because it's strong.
Yeah. It relies on its magic dice to do most of its heavy lifting, so
Yes.
you do want to guarantee as many dice as you can.
But as we saw in the let's not. I won't spoil it if you haven't watched it. Watch the Vampire Game. It was a good list. It worked out nicely. It was very interesting to watch. So I think we've probably covered the vast majority of how that list works, really. And then again, the Wild Riders scooch round with the sisters if they want to, and they can sort of charge and deliver their damage from the flexible position. Again, actually, there's good synergy with the Wild Riders and the Dark Magic because you can sort of reduce the size of the units quite quickly and then finish them off.
Reduce their weapon skills so that you're definitely hitting on 3s or they may be hitting you on 5s.
Yeah, good stuff.
Really good stuff.
Good list. Good all rounder, and that's the thing. It's good against everyone. You know, because it can do more than one thing. It's a bit more flexible than the first list because it's got less stuff that's fixed on the tabletop, that fixed in blocks, if you like.
Yeah.
Okay, so our final list is an avoidance list. Now this one is really a finesse list. This is like, if you like, we've got sort of more complicated to use as we've gone down from the open list to the first list, and this one is a -3, so it's slightly harder comp, but it's much more finessey to put together on the table, and this one will frustrate your opponents
to no end.
It's
I look at this and I'm just like, this is just annoying.
So this one has a Spellweaver who's a level 4 wizard who is your general, and this time they're using high magic.
Okay.
And they have a Dispel Scroll and a Talisman of Preservation again, and they're mounted on a Great Eagle.
Okay.
So you've got a flying wizard and you're going to use those counters and that to keep that
Keep
wizard
them alive.
going. You have a second wizard too. This one is a level 4 wizard on the Law of Metal, actually.
Okay.
With a channeling staff, the obsidian amulet, and an elven steed.
Okay.
In addition to that, you have a Glade Captain Battle Standard who has an Azar Spear, the Enchanted Shield, and the Hat of Doom Arrow.
That sounds familiar, James.
It does, but this one also has an elven steed.
Oh.
He's faster this time around.
And you might start to see a pattern developing.
Yeah, I can see
Now,
it
we
coming.
get into our core. We have 10 Glade Riders with Musician Standard and Swift Shiver Shafts.
Okay.
We have that another 2 times.
Okay.
So I don't want to
units
keep
there.
saying
So
Swift Shiver
30,
Shafts.
because you got it wrong
Got
then.
it wrong then.
So 30 Glade Riders with
Musician
Muso standards
standard.
and Swift Shiver Shafts.
Thank you.
So it's not
There we
difficult.
go.
Then you've got 2 units of 5 Glade Riders that have Starfire Shafts.
Okay.
Okay. That's all you core.
It's a lot of Glade Riders.
Yeah, it's what, 40 Glade Riders?
Yes. Then we're back with our 2 units of 7 Wild Riders with Shields and Champions.
That's just
Pretty
standard.
standard.
And this time we've got 2 units of 6 Sisters of the Thorn with Standard Bearers.
Okay.
Okay, so this one's back to having quite a lot of fortitude.
Yeah,
Um,
you've got what, 3,
5.
4.
5 there, 6 with the Battle Standard, and 7, 8.
Yeah.
So very high, same as the first list was very high on fortitude. And that's, gonna be more helpful, and it's gonna be more helpful because we need to be able to score as much as we can from missions too.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
this list has 40 models that are 600 odd points that might not come onto the table. So it's risky biscuit, but we're playing the averages and we're saying, look, they'll likely get on in 6 turns
At some point.
at some point.
But
Which
whether or
is-
not they're going to turn up when you actually need them.
Which is why everything's duplicated. We've got 2 units of 5 with Starfire,
Yeah.
so that we should get a Starfire on in a useful moment.
At some point when we want it.
And we've got 3 units of 10 with Swift Shiver, which we're going to obviously cast Hand of Glory on
Yeah.
to up there. And so by having multiple of the units, if
Yeah.
some get killed,
Yeah.
you bring the next unit of 10 in and you do the same again. Then we still got our Wild Riders, which dance around and do their smash
Do their
bash.
jam.
Yep, and then we've got 2 units of 6 Sisters with Standards, and these are going to have, one's going to have our Glade Captain in,
Yeah.
and one's going to have our level 4 Metal in.
Okay.
Again, we could swap that interchangeably.
Yeah.
With the Wild Riders, sorry.
Yeah.
So it just avoids you.
Yeah, it's super hard to catch, super hard really to get any points off of, because the only thing you're going to reliably be able to sort of bring to bear against it is magic missiles,
Yes.
or sort of shooting if they're like skirmishers or
Yes.
something like that, or fast cav that can
Yes.
shoot quite
Which is actually a part of the informing of what we've got going on with our wizards. So our high magic wizard is here to deliver us the buffs to the Swift Shiver units, but it's also here predominantly to kill big blocks with the fiery convocation and to suck up enemy power dice if they fail to dispel it, which helps to reduce the number of magic missiles coming back at us,
Yeah.
which is really helpful. And then we've got all of the usual refinements like busting their magic items and
Yeah, you've got Soul Quench to deal with those sort of skirmishers that are going fast cav that are going to be able to track you down and chase you.
and again we're gonna let them get buffs off, ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
because number one, we don't care that much because we're not going to be going to fight them, and number two, we're going to let them get buffs and debuffs because we don't want to get magic missiled.
Yeah.
So we've got to drain magic for that too,
Yeah.
which we like.
You save your dispel dice for the magic missiles, and then if it's a buff/debuff you really don't want to deal with, you just drain magic.
Just drain magic it. That is correct. And then so why the Metal Wizard, I suppose, is the next
Yeah, I was going to ask you
best
that.
option.
Yeah.
So armor busting is really just the Wild Riders in this list
Yes.
because the high magic doesn't have a lot for that. Whereas
No.
with the other lists, we've had Shadow, Dark Magic, Death. They're all really good for armor
Yeah.
busting. So we need to get some armor busting back in our list. That's number one.
Okay.
Number two, Metal struggles to kind of deal with chaff and stuff.
Yeah.
But we're going to deal with that with all of our other
Yeah.
sort of cool action and shooting and magic in this list. So the other reason for Metal is that we can go for +1 to hit and armor piercing. Now this is good on the second unit of Swift Shiver Shafts alongside our upping
Hand of
ballistic
Glory
skill
on
from
one.
Hand of Glory. So if we've got 2 on and we think, I want to maximise all my shots this
Yeah,
turn.
okay.
So that's good. Also we've got Glittering Robe.
Yeah.
And we aren't a massive model count.
No.
Our model count is sort of what we've got here: 40 in core, 54, 66, plus 3 characters. We're a sub 70 model count.
Yeah.
So, you know, plus 2 armour save, which I believe Glittering Robe can be pushed
Ooh, I don't
to
know.
I
hit
think
multiple
you
units.
can to 12 inches.
I will
up.
have a look in our rulebook, which we have down here. But
Whilst he's looking at that,
yeah.
I'll explain some more. You've got another unit killer option with gold statues. So if you
Had
have
a very
got,
consistent unit.
Yeah.
you do, yeah, and that's not called gold statues. That's just what we call it because you get turned into
It's
one.
final
You need to
transmutation.
take transmutation. Which again is going to offer us another out option for a list that likes to avoid and that doesn't maybe have the best capacity to deal with big blocks. So that's the thinking behind metal, and the channeling staff is on there because unfortunately we go over Lord's allowance if we swap it for a power stone, which we'd rather have.
Which is
There we go,
unfortunate.
the pages are stuck together. Yes, you can bubble Glittering Robot to a 16 all friendly units in 12.
I was correct.
You
so,
were.
Yeah.
And that's very good with a list like this because it
Yeah.
likes to scooch around and mooch around. So that's it really. It's a very different list. Your opponent will be frustrated, but you're not going to win big, ladies and gentlemen.
No, that's a much better list for a win-loss-draw tournament.
Yes, it is, yeah. If only there was thoughts of one of those.
Well, exactly.
Maybe in the future.
Maybe in the pipeline. So
Yeah.
that's it. We've done it.
You're at an end.
We've twisted and weaved our way through the dark but beautiful pathways of Athel-Loren, and we've
very
finished
poetic.
the Wood Elf deep dive. We are done, ladies and gentlemen. So I'd like to hope that what you've seen tonight or today, whenever you're watching it, I mean we filmed it in an evening,
Yeah.
but for you guys it might be daytime. But I'd like to hope that you've seen that Wood Elves can be a really potent competitive force.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But you are going to do some work for that. It's not going to be super
It's not
easy.
going to be easy.
No,
It's Warhammer hard way.
Yeah,
it
and
really is.
you need to remember as well that there's obvious challenges that Wood Elf armies will face.
Yeah, absolutely. But it is worth saying, if when you do get those big wins with the Wolves, and you will, because they are absolutely an army that can do it, you feel like you have absolutely deserved it. 'Cause you have put in the time, you've put in the effort, you've done everything right, and you've got those big wins.
You certainly love to see that.
You do.
So, as always, feel free to give us your feedback on all of our social media platforms. Share your lists, share your lists, and ask us questions. And thanks for joining us on triplecrownwargaming.com. We'll see you again real soon. Remember to tag your friends and like, subscribe, and share today. What are you doing, mate?
I'm sharing.
It's not that sort of sharing, mate.
Oh.
Head over to triplecrownwargaming.com and come a Knight of the Realm today.